What is up, hobby jogger nation? We are back on the Mileage Pod. I'm coming to you live from Lille, France. Man, beautiful city here, beautiful country, beautiful region, northern France. I've just absolutely fallen in love this week. So my initial plan was to film this entire Q&A at home before I came on this trip. I've been on this trip at the Kiprun HQ, going deep on the brand, chatting with all the developers, also just stacking mileage, stacking Ks up in Lille. Absolutely beautiful. My initial plan was to film this Q&A before I left on the trip, and I thought it would be nice to do a Q&A because recently I've been trying to do a team pod or have guests on the show, and I wasn't really sure if I'd be able to do that this week. I maybe coordinate an in-person one, but it's just been very busy this week. I'm glad I didn't bank on doing an in-person one with somebody here because we've had basically no time on the calendar. I mean, maybe I would have been able to do it if we really tried. But Q&A today. So I posted on the Supwell app for the app members. Ask me any question. Ask me any question that your heart desires. People asked personal questions. People asked emotional questions. People asked romantic questions. They asked me romantic questions, man, and I did my best to get through all of them. I probably got through about 60 to 70%. There were a lot of questions. There were 84 questions, and if you know me, you know that I like to talk. So we didn't get through all of them. I would love to finish the rest of the Q&A at some point. I went from the beginning, so the first posted questions to just chronologically through, and we stopped at the point where it's now. Right now, when I'm talking to you, it is, what time is it? It's about 10:30 p.m. Lillian time. But lots of great questions, man. It just shows what a thoughtful, supportive, kilometrage stacking, mileage stacking community we have on the Supwell app. So if you're not an app member, you should definitely get on. It's a great community of people getting after it. We also, of course, have the buy, sell, trade marketplace for the US members. And we have the marketplace for anybody, but it's really about just getting the two sides going. We got to get people selling the shoes and buying the shoes. So that is one of my goals. Do more travel like this, get the marketplace more established in the UK, Australia, and maybe France. Maybe we got to prioritize France, but I think getting it in the English-speaking countries first. I know they do speak English here, but primary English-speaking countries first would be great. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here again, which is why this is such a long podcast. Hopefully you have this for your long run, or you're cleaning the kitchen, or you're taking your kids to school, or doing something where you would enjoy a companion just chatting with you. Just chat, because that's what it's all about, man. That's also why I wanted to start the podcast. It's a more relaxed format, and I know people who are listening to podcasts aren't trying to rush through, or maybe you just put it on 2x and you are trying to rush through. I don't know. Somebody told me I sounded like, who was it? Ben Shapiro. I think they said I sounded like Ben Shapiro on 2X. So please don't put me on 2X, man. Just keep me on regular. I like how my voice sounds at normal speed. We don't need to have an Alvin and the Chipmunk vibe. We don't need to have a Ben Shapiro vibe. We're just relaxing, man. Live from Lille, France. And the first two parts of this were recorded in Min Hill. So I don't know how relaxed those are going to be. Maybe I'm hyped because it's Min Hill. Maybe I'm in a different mode. But yeah, enjoy. Q&A, Supwell app, exclusive. It's not an exclusive, but the questions were asked by Supwell app members. Anyway, if you're listening to this, I appreciate you. Stack that mileage, stack those kilometers, stack those Ks, and let's get into it. Welcome back to the Mileage Podcast, your audio companion for racking and stacking mileage daily. Now, this is a weekly show, weekly interview show. This is what I've committed to. We will have weekly guests. Maybe it's Supwell team. They're not really guests, but weekly people other than me. That's the main thing. Weekly people other than me. And then sometimes, like this week, when I'm traveling, we'll do something like this, or when lightning strikes, like that Emily Dickinson poem, when I get the inspiration, we'll do other podcasts on topics maybe without guests. Today we're doing a Q&A. Last time I checked, man, shout out to Nipsey Hussle. Last time that I checked, we had 72 questions. I'm sliding back into that NPR voice, man. It's too good. It's too good not to use the NPR voice when we have the official podcast mic here rolling. We are back on the Mileage Podcast. But last time that I checked, what's the circle of NPR listeners and Nipsey Hussle listeners? The Venn diagram, probably pretty similar to people who watch my channel, actually. Highly educated mileage stackers, just people getting after it daily. All right, we have the Q&A. I posted on the Supwell app, Q&A. Fire away. Should I present my screen so you all can see? I don't know about doing it for the whole time, but let me just present my screen. Q&A, far away. This is Supwell app. If you're not a member, you should become a member, man. It's the best gosh dang community out there for hobby joggers. I don't have any sponsors for the podcast yet, so I might as well have Supwell sponsor the podcast. And there were a lot of business questions in here, actually, so I'll talk about it later. But we have the Instagram. A lot of people know us for the Instagram, and I think that might be our most successful, well-known product at this point, maybe even overtaken the YouTube channel. But running shoe reviews on YouTube. We have the Instagram where we don't get paid anything. We just put out funny, ridiculous lists like comparing super trainers to Kanye shoes. And then we have the Supwell app. We also have the website and merch apparel as well. But Supwell app, it's our community. It's buy, sell, and trade shoe marketplace. Let me see if I can find any deals in the shoe marketplace here. But yeah, I don't have any sponsors yet, so I haven't been. Oh, that's a pretty good deal, man. New A6 Mega Blast, size 12.5, 177. Banger. Shout out to Lucas Mata putting out the banger deals, and he's been a member since May 2025. Legendary Deviate Nitro Elite 5 miles for $230. Another good deal. Grant's talking about this. The Nike Vomero Premium dropped today, and we were able to snag some, thankfully, I think. But I don't know, because it's been pretty tough with, apparently Dick's said people's orders were confirmed and then they weren't confirmed. So I think ours are confirmed, but we'll see. Vomero Premium. Shout out to my guy Josh Spivey putting in work, man. Only real mileage is going to last. All that other BS is here today and gone tomorrow. No, 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 no. Real ones know that song. Shout out to Nothing Was the Same by Drake, one of his best albums. Somebody asked me, I think there is a top albums question. It's hard because things change so much, and albums for me are so of the moment. Is it temporal, the right word? They're so just of the moment, and it's something that I loved 10 years ago or even 5 years ago or even 1 year ago. I listen to it now, and I just think of being back in that time. So my favorite album changes. But when we get to that question, I can tell you some of the most significant ones. But Vomero Premium 220, shout out to Josh Spivey. Neo Zen, brand new for $80. I mean, half the price. There's just banger deals on here. Sold Nimbus 27, brand new for $75. That's a crazy deal. Size 11.5. So yeah, get on the app if you're not. This video is, or this podcast is brought to you by the Supwell app. Nobody else wants to sponsor me. That's fine. I'll just take $3,000 from my left pocket and put it into my right pocket. I'm sponsoring my own gosh dang podcast. Anyway, let's go to the questions. I wanted to do the Q&A for the app members first. I was thinking, should we do it on the YouTube channel? Should we do it on the Instagram? Should we do it on the app? Why not do it on the app, man? These are the OGs. These are the real ones in here. I should probably unpin this post. Is this pinned still? I have the Run Some Dang Hills Spring Community Challenge pinned to the top. Let's unpin that post. Okay, there you go. So now we have the Q&A post up top here. So I'm going to scroll all the way back down to the bottom like we had it before so we can get through these first questions first. I'm not sure how many of these I'll do. This is probably going to be a pretty long podcast. You'll see. Yeah, you will see by the number of minutes. The number of minutes it is. All right, first one. Shout out to my guy Deuce Villanueva, elder millennial hobby jogger in the Pacific Northwest. And his question was, how does one work a full-time job, run 100-mile weeks and participate as a partner and parent for family obligations? This is a great question. And I did look at some of these this morning. I think there were about 67 comments when I looked this morning. So I saw most of them and I was able to do some notes either in my head on my run or on my phone. So I was able to think through some answers. So this is a question I get asked a lot. How do I run so much, work a full-time job, and have a family? And there's a few answers. First, I work from home. I do not have a commute. If you work in the office, think about the time it takes you to commute. Even if you are only commuting 30 minutes, you're likely, say it's a 30-minute drive, you're likely getting ready to go to the office. That takes 10 minutes. And then when you're leaving, that takes another 10 minutes. So it's probably a minimum 50 minutes for a very short commute. 50 minutes door to door from your home to your office. Now, if you are running a 7-minute mile, what's 50 divided by 7? That's 7. If you're running an 8-minute mile, so that's either 7 to 8 miles. Let's call it 6 to 8 miles, depending on your pace range. So for the average person's commute, let's say it's 50 minutes door to door, 6 to 8 miles. Maybe you have even a shorter commute, 30 minutes door to door. That's 4 miles. So that's what you got to think about. If you're commuting 30 minutes twice a day, that's 8 miles you could run. If you're commuting 50 minutes twice a day, that's dang near 16 miles you can run. So I don't have a commute. I just have to roll up to my desk right here and pop the computer on. So I'm able to get consistently 10 to 12 miles in the morning before work. If I had a commute, I'd be leaving my house at what? 8:30, 9, depending on when your office starts. I would have to do my run probably before the kids woke up so that I could be present for breakfast and everything. And it would be a lot more difficult. I did this yesterday because there was a doctor's appointment. So I had to do my run before the kids woke up or before Charlie took the kids to school. So I had to run, I didn't have to, but I chose to run 16 miles on the treadmill in the morning starting at 4:50 a.m. The number of times I do that in order to hit my 100-mile week goal are very small, few and far between. I probably do something like that once every 3 to 4 months. That level of sicko behavior, getting 16 in at 4 a.m. More frequently, what it is most of the time, and you can look at my Strava, is 10 miles at 8 a.m., 10 miles at 7:30 a.m., 10 to 12 miles, and then sometime in the afternoon, either lunch break or after work, stroller run with Roni, I'll get in 4 miles. That is what it is on average. 100 miles really sounds like a lot, but when you break it down, it's 10 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon. And I know that's not simple, that's not easy, but having worked up for 6 years now, running consistently, that's what I'm able to do. And then, of course, the 20-mile long run on the weekend. Now, that is the one that could potentially detract from the family time, but it's just such a part of my schedule now that the family just knows, hey, I'm going 20 every Sunday. And also, I have the business now, so I can justify my running with that. The other thing was, how do you participate as a partner and parent for family obligations? So again, this doesn't detract, maybe Charlie would say something different, but this doesn't detract, at least I feel, hugely from my parenting and partnership. It's more now what we're seeing with the business, where I'm getting invited on these trips. It's these bigger things. I mean, I went to business school a few years ago and I did a part-time program where every other weekend I either had to be on campus, and that's the diploma. I took down the bottom diploma, by the way, because people were saying it was too much glare. So I took down the bottom diploma. I think this Osbat Meet 2 stream camera, it has some processing on it, digital processing. So it's making this look more glareful than it actually is. So I did take the bottom diploma down, but that top diploma, that's my MBA diploma. And when I was doing that, I would be in class dang near every Saturday. Every other Saturday, I was either in class at home or on the road in Durham. It was just tough, man. So it's the bigger things that really make it harder to be around as a dad. But I'm there to read every night. I'm there after school. Also, benefit of working from home, I can see the kids throughout the day for 2 minutes here and there when I grab a snack, if Reevesy's home. And when Mace gets home, I get to see her. So yeah, it doesn't detract hugely, the actual running, but with everything around the running now, there is more stuff with the editing, the videos and everything. I think the most challenging part is probably just when I am around the family, not always checking on comments, not always checking email analytics, not always texting people. That's the challenging part. But that could be any of us with any job that you care about. It's not specific to my job. So it is hard, especially with working from home too, and having this business as well as my other job. It's okay. My regular work is done, but the Supwell work, it never ends. It never ends. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, you know this feel, or if you just really care about your job, there's a feeling of ownership that you have, and I care a whole lot, so I'm not just gonna not touch it. It was really nice. Ooh, my water fell. It was really nice over the holiday break when I was able to go up to the Smoky Mountains, because I wasn't really looking at the analytics, I wasn't looking at the comments. I was really able to disconnect. It's not always possible to do that, but during those times, it's really nice. And then the last thing I'll say, there are some trade-offs that you have to make. For example, today, so Mason, she just won this recognition for her art. She was the only first grader. Let me brag a little bit. Brag talk, bag talk, dad talk. Yeah, she was the only first grader to have her art recognized and be selected to be in some show in Uptown Charlotte. So this morning they did this assembly where they were calling people up. I didn't go. Charlie went. They invited the parents for the kids who were selected, but Charlie went. It was at 8:30 a.m., which is prime time for me running, filming before my actual job starts. So I didn't go. But guess what? The exhibit itself is going to be open in, I think the date was March something. So we'll go, and I will go there to see her actual work. So yeah, there are hard trade-offs to make. I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, I go to every single ballet practice and art recognition. I don't. That's the reality of doing this and having the job. There are some trade-offs. I'm going to be gone for an entire week to 8 days, so I'm sure I'll miss some other things. But when I'm around, I try to be around as much as I can. But nobody's perfect, man. And you just got to think about the trade-offs too of the work I'm putting in for the business, how I'm able to provide for my family. There's just different benefits. If I had all this time to be around for every single thing, there would be other things I'm sacrificing. So everyone's got to make the call themselves. But yeah, main thing is 100 miles a week isn't as much as it sounds. It's nice to have that round number, but if you break it down, 10 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon. Alrighty. And yeah, the math doesn't work if you do 14 times 5. It's not plus 20. It doesn't have, you have to do a little bit longer on a few of the days. All right. Shout out Deuce, putting in work, man. Jared, my guy Jared, man, he's one of the few hobby joggers that I've actually run with. And hopefully we can also, because I'm going to be presenting the screen here, hopefully we can do something where my face isn't super small. Maybe we can make it so that these are equal sized. I don't know. Grant will figure it out. Maybe I'll do it bigger like this so that the questions are a little bit bigger right there. So yeah, Jared from NYC, that's my guy right there. This coffee's so good. It's the black and white candy hearts. Also, how's my pacing? We're 13 minutes in and I've hit one question. What's 13 times 72 divided by 60? 13 times 72 divided by 60. Wow, this might be a 15-hour podcast. All right, we'll see. Jared, thinking about running to pass time between runs. I love that. Aren't we all, Jared? So when to push through pain/discomfort versus when to listen to your body. He says he knows it's been a while since I've been injured, but looking back, were there warning signs that were different from the usual wear and tear? So that's great. Two different questions right there. So the first is when to push through. And then the second is what were the warning signs when I was injured? So we can do the second one first, to do this chronologically. The only time I've been injured, and this is actually the only time I've really been injured in my entire athletic career. I played basketball my entire life through high school. I played lacrosse through high school. I didn't play lacrosse before because where I grew up, lacrosse wasn't really a thing. But then I went to a bougie high school and I played lacrosse. Yeah, basketball, lacrosse. I played a few seasons of football here and there. Was never injured. And I was also never the most aggressive out there on the field or court. I'm more of a cautious athlete. I would definitely get in there and muck it up, but I wasn't reckless. I was appropriately so. And I did play midi in lacrosse, and I scooped a lot of ground balls, but I was never injured. So yeah, I do think I'm more durable, and I've just I've always fueled well. My mom, growing up, really taught us proper nutrition, so that probably played a part. I always did strength training and was always in the gym. I lifted a lot in high school, so that probably played a part. And there's also genetics involved, I'm sure, with how durable we are and just the musculature. I've always been decently muscular. I mean, very lanky and runnerly now, but I've always been decently muscular and I think have good genetics for this. But the one time I was injured, it was my first marathon training block, and I was trying to do CrossFit while training for my first marathon. Basically a recipe for disaster. Waking up at 4:30 a.m. to go to 5:30 a.m. CrossFit classes and then running after, sometimes doing workouts. And CrossFit workouts are not a walk in the park, man. And that culture of CrossFit really prioritizes and values pushing yourself to the limit. So doing really taxing workouts. And again, I would always be doing it within myself. I would never, because I'm a more cautious, conservative athlete, I would not be trying to max things out. And I knew that running was my main priority. But even with that, it's just a lot of wear and tear on the body. So first marathon block, doing CrossFit. I don't know if there's one thing I could point to, but it was just a classic overuse type of injury, knee pain, general knee pain, and probably some IT band thing. Just felt pain when pushing off. I actually forget which side it was even on at this point. But that was the only time I was really injured. I don't know if there's anything I would have or could have done differently. It's almost like battle scars, right? You have to just learn as you go, and sometimes experience is the best teacher. It sounds so trite, so cliche. It's a trope to say that, but it's so true. You have to, and especially with the injury thing, learning what the limits are for your body, it is the most important thing that you can do, because it's going to be different for everyone. Now, fast forward to today, when to push through pain/discomfort versus when to listen to your body. I always listen to my body. That's not a binary. It's not an either or. I always listen to my body, and sometimes that means pushing through. But I think the biggest thing for me is focusing on volume and focusing on what is the minimum viable mileage I can get today. So great example. Yesterday, ran 16 miles in the Evo SL in the morning. My left calf was really tight, really sore. So what I did was I switched up the footwear. I went with the Mag Max 2, and I decided to do a really relaxed run. That's generally my approach. Let me run in the shoe that's going to alleviate whatever type of burden. Usually the Mag Max, that's my go-to injury prevention or just not aggressive shoe, and let me slow it way down. So I very rarely cut mileage all the way down, but I can think of a time last year too, or maybe this was 2 years ago now, when the first Evo SL dropped. I did a 30-mile long run in it, and that's a shoe that can also just trigger some soreness in my calves because of the low drop and the form that it forces you to run with. And I remember after doing the 30-mile long run on that, when I was training for the Ultra, my left calf was super sore. Left or right? I think probably left. I think I have an imbalance. Regardless, the next day I ran very slow, super gently. I think I might have taken 1 day off. Maybe I took 1 day off, and then just really relaxed. No workouts, no strides. I try to run through it as much as possible while reducing the volume, or not even the volume, but while reducing the intensity. So going super slowly, valuing the mileage more than I value the intensity, and listening to the body. That's it. So yeah, there's no magic to this for me, but I do think there's also a piece of it where, again, I'm very conservative. So whenever something does pop up, I'll reduce or eliminate the workouts. That's the biggest thing you can do. The number one thing you can do to get injured is to feel banged up and try to run a workout. Now, I think the gray area here and what the skill is differentiating between fatigue and soreness versus pain and warning signs, because those are two different things. If you're just feeling completely wiped out, if your legs are feeling heavy, if you have soreness in the calves from running in an aggressive shoe, that's a different type of thing than acute pain or acute soreness. There's more of the general fatigue. So those are the two things to figure out for yourself. What does it feel like to be, okay, I'm just in high mileage training, I'm very wiped out, I'm going to push through and still attempt to work out, versus I feel some acute pain. And yeah, experience is the best teacher here. But if you're thinking about the numerical scale, if it's above a 3 or a 4 and it feels painful. And also if it gets worse, the deeper into a run, that's a good sign to pull way back. If it gets better through a run, then keep racking and stacking. But yeah, I always try to hold on to the mileage and drop the intensity. All right, shout out Jared. Next one here, Ryan Suzuki. I love his bio. I hate running. That's his bio. I hate running. Okay, in your opinion, what is the best rap album of all time, and why is it Illmatic? Oof. And then Ben London says, who is Northwest Philly, born and raised, he said, he doesn't do old school, with the sad face, talking about me. I don't do old school. So that's not entirely true. I do listen to some old school music. It's not that I don't do old school. It's just I am the age that I am. I was born in 1995. When did Illmatic come out? A little Google check here. When did Illmatic come out? Okay, Illmatic came out when I was -1 years old. So that's what's important to remember. And it's hard sometimes too, because now I'm 30, I'm getting to the age where things that were classics to me are disrespected and degraded by the new generation. Somebody on Instagram the other day said Graduation was Kanye's worst album. And then I followed it up by doing a little snarky comment. I said, that's a Gen Z take. And he replied saying, it's not, what did he say? Something about the songwriting wasn't as good as his later stuff, which just goes to show he's biased toward the newer thing. So we can't change when we were born. It's one of the few things. It's one of the immutable characteristics. We can't change when you were born. So I don't have anything against old school. I don't have anything against Illmatic. I'm not even going to say Illmatic's not the best rap album of all time. And this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier when I was saying my favorite albums change. I really think about what I'm listening to right now. And I also really try to respect the differences. I respect the KRS-Ones of the world and the Run DMCs of the world, and I understand how influential that stuff was and how influential Nas was, but that's not my generation. So my generation was the first stuff that I remember was really 2000s, early 2000s, 50 Cent. That was the earliest stuff that I remember. And then, so 50 Cent, some Jeezy, but we played that 50 Cent album a lot. What was that one even called? Oh, Get Rich or Die Trying. I can't believe I forgot the name of Get Rich or Die Trying. So yeah, that was probably the first influential album. And then the first album I ever bought with my own money was Chris Brown, the Chris Brown album with Yo and Run It, banger album, low key album. And then Graduation, I think, was the second album I got. So Graduation might be my favorite rap album of all time. I think it's an album that you can just play anytime. There's lots of good vibes in there, highly influential. The cover art is sick. And just what Kanye was able to do with shifting not just the sonic palette and the soundscape from this gangsta rap vibe towards something with just a different style. Thinking about even the clothes too, to the cover art. If you compare the cover art for Get Rich or Die Trying, it's 50 Cent shirtless flexing with a bullet hole, a fake bullet hole in the album on a red background. Red, the most aggressive, stereotypical masculine color. To Graduation, there's a stuffed animal bear floating through space and it's purple. So what he was able to do, shifting the culture, doing something completely different, that paved the way for the Lil Uzi Verts and the Playboy Cardis and the Drakes and everyone else who's coming out now. That I don't even Destroy Lonely. Who are these new guys, man? I don't even keep up with it. But yeah, it might be Graduation for me. So Graduation came out when I was in, I don't know, middle school. High school, Nothing Was the Same was a huge one. Drake was just at the height of his powers in high school. I'm trying to think of other albums. I don't think I have a best or just all-time favorite. It's really hard, just generation. Then as an adult, I've listened to a lot more of the lifestyle, motivational stuff, Currency, Larry June, and then I'm a huge Boldy James fan. So of those three, I will say Covert Coup. That is the best mixtape of all time, Currency and Alchemist. And then from Larry June, Spaceships on the Blade is his most complete album, but Great Escape is probably his most artistically respected album. That's co-produced by Alchemist, and Alchemist is just such a talented artist. And then Boldy James, I think Fair Exchange, No Robbery is my favorite album of his, and I do have it on vinyl. So again, I'm not saying Boldy James, Fair Exchange, No Robbery is the best rap album of all time. No, it's not. But in terms of what I've been listening to, that's what I gravitate towards. I think this conversation is also difficult because you have to bring in, of course, the subjectivity of what we all like, but then there is sort of an objective element to this where Graduation, because it's so popular, or Illmatic, because it's so popular. I mean, New York's State of Mind, straight out the dungeons of rap, where fake joggers don't make it back. So popular, ingrained in the culture. There is an element to that is necessary for something to be considered in that best conversation with some of these new lifestyle rappers or more underground. It's not the same. They're not going to be in that conversation. But that's what I listen to now. Best of all time. I'll go Graduation. I think for my generation, that's a solid pick. It's hard because Drake was so influential. But if you look at his catalog of albums, I don't know if you can point to one and say it's in the conversation for best of all time. But also with his albums, he always tried to do the thing where he had a song catering to every single taste and preference, where he had the upbeat stuff, the downbeat stuff. So yeah, that's a really hard question. Drake is definitely the most influential artist of my generation, even if he doesn't have one of the best albums of all time. But I'll put Nothing Was the Same up there. And then Take Care would be behind it. I don't think Take Care has aged as well, though. Hot take. All right, shout out to Ryan and Ben. Also, shout out to the old school. You don't even need to call it old school. That's just your school. That's your school, bro. That's your school. Shout out to your school. Shout out to my school. All right, Cole Harris, Red Hair 9 Ultra review coming soon. Eyes emoji, hope so. Yes. All right, Chris Coffey. A low ankle bone clearance evaluation would be cool. Just a quick eyeball or something. I don't know what that means. Is he saying with the upper? He wants to see how different shoes with the uppers hit the foot in a different way. I'm guessing that's what he means. Chris, if you're listening, please drop a comment to clarify. But if that's what it is, I can definitely start including that. Just give a side shot of the shoe. All right, next question here. Nathan Lomelin. No bio. Chris Coffey's bio was I want to go fast with the hand up. Yeah, no bio with Nathan Lomelin, and his picture, it looks like some sort of a haunted ghost situation, but if you zoom in, I'm guessing he's standing in front of a waterfall. Yes, standing in front of a waterfall, so he's likely a trail runner. What is one discontinued shoe line model that I'd bring back in 2026? So easy. I didn't even have to think about this. Saucony Endorphin Elite OG. It's not discontinued, but they just completely 180. It was a firm, fast, aggressive shoe and made it a marshmallow. It's like if they took the Fast R3 and then in the Fast R4, they put the Mag Max foam in there or something. Just a complete 180. So I'm really hoping that Saucony gives us a fast and firm racer. I mean, the Fast R3 is just eating their lunch, though, when it comes to that direct racer, fast, firm type of vibe. Also, I've heard Saucony Endorphin Pro 4 or no, Pro 5. I've heard some mixed things on it. And even if it's not a terrible dud, that model, I don't know. They've kept it relatively the same while other brands have started to fill that gap. I think if you did change it too much, then we'd be having the same conversation with the Endorphin Pro of, oh my gosh, the Endorphin Pro 3 was amazing. Why'd you change it? But this is the downside. Then you keep it on the market for too long and others catch up. Endorphin Elite, though, was very unique because nothing else had that feel with the super aggressive rocker, the toe off, and that firm plate feel on the front, that bite, the snap. So that's the one for sure. The other one would be OG Prime X Strung, just a redo. And I know these aren't discontinued, but again, two examples of shoes that are completely different now than when they first came out. Prime X Strung OG and Endorphin Elite. So those would be my two. Trying to look around here and think. A Triumph was another one from Saucony that they messed up pretty good, but they look to be course correcting this year. So that would be it. Oh, and then this is a fun one. A name Invincible. Why? Now because the Vomero lineup is so good, Vomero Plus, Vomero Premium, we don't think about it as much, which just goes to show how important or unimportant names are. They really don't matter. But the Invincible, that's a legendary, iconic name. Why would you not want to run in a shoe called the Invincible? Vomero means literally nothing. So that was such a head-scratching, puzzling decision. Why would you kill the Vomero nameplate? Now they have the Vomero Plus and the Premium, which are taking different pieces of that shoe and bringing them into 2025, 2026. But just for the name, I would bring back the Invincible. The Vomero Plus probably should have been the Invincible. But things change, and they paid some multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that renaming project. Okay. Corin Fenner, a.k.a. Coco. Is it Corin or Karan? I'm going to go for Corin. He calls himself a seasoned beginner. I love that. He asks, my guy Coco, what are the challenges that bothered you most when it comes to running and creating content? How did you overcome or alleviate those issues? I wish I saw this one earlier because I didn't come up with notes for it. So I'll just go off top, freestyle. So when it comes to running and creating content, the first thing that popped into my head when I read this question right now was not getting views, not getting any engagement. Man, when you're putting stuff out in the beginning and nobody is watching it, it is so hard. It's so hard. People want to talk about do it for the love of the game, this, love of the game, that. Yeah, but there also needs to be an element of there's some value that's being created out of this. Somebody is appreciating it. So that's really hard, just not knowing if anybody's going to value it. And still to this day, man, looking at my year over year views, we were actually down the past year to the previous year, which is just crazy. But we had a really good year in 2024. Also, there's some things out of my control. There's definitely things I can control. And we're growing in general with the app and doing Instagram now and launching this podcast. But yeah, YouTube is just a really fickle platform. And then the other thing is, with the revenue, so I talked about this in a video recently, but my watch hours were up. They're something like 5% up, so relatively flat. And watch hours corresponds or should with revenue because the number of how long people are watching translates into how many ads you're seeing, etc. So watch hours up, I think views were relatively the same. And then my ad revenue was almost 20% down because the advertiser payouts fluctuate and how YouTube does it fluctuates. So that's what's frustrating to me, just the elements that are out of my control. I put up videos every day. I'm here for the community every day. My product is relatively consistent. And when the numbers go up that I can control, something like watch hours, I can't control how many people are watching the video or how long they're doing it. But by putting out stuff people want to watch, that kind of controls it, right? So what I have an influence on is going up, but then the revenue is going down. So that's super annoying. In terms of the just not getting views, how did I overcome or alleviate that issue? You just got to grind it out, man. You just have to have, if you want to survive in this content creation game, you have to be a dog with production. And it's not all about output. It's not about just putting up things every day for the sake of it, but by going every day and by going more frequently, a few things happen. You beat the habit into yourself. And when I commit to something, I'm not going to let myself down. So that's the first thing. Second, you accelerate the learning curve. So if you're doing one video a week, it's going to take you 3 months to get to 10 videos. If you do one video a day, it takes you a week and a half. So any issues with editing, any issues with not feeling as comfortable on the mic, any issues with things like where do I place the camera in my room? How do I set up the mic? You get those through those things so much quicker. And then, of course, there's feeding the algorithm, and hopefully your channel will get picked up more and you'll have a chance of something popping off. But you really just got to grind and push through and commit to it. But not everybody can commit to it, whether it's time, whether it's energy, whether it's flakiness. Not everyone can commit to it. So if you really want to get something off the ground, commit to yourself, commit to doing something every day. Not everybody can make a video every day. I understand that, but commit to doing something related to whatever it is you want to do every day. Whether it's even 5 minutes, that's fine, but you got to put that work in and you got to be consistent with it. So that's the number one thing that can alleviate the issues, is being consistent and pushing through. Now, there's some things, again, out of your control, but consistency is the best drug. All right, Chris J., artist formerly known as Venice Brice. He has a few questions here. Daniels versus Fitz versus Hudson. That is the first question. So those are 3 popular training systems. Number 2, rank the following in terms of importance for the marathon: volume, threshold/tempo, marathon pace work, steady work, and interval repetitions. And then 3, best marathon race predictor workout. What should the level of effort/heart rate be for this workout that would indicate marathon readiness at this pace? So first, Daniels versus Fitz versus Hudson. Daniels, you're going to be doing high volume and also very intense, long workouts at or near marathon pace. So Daniels is all about grinder, marathon, or tempo sessions. And the blocks are really long. He has some workouts or some training plans in the Daniels book that are 24 weeks long or even longer. Fitz, lots of variation, but there is just way too much structure, way too much prescription in there for me. Fitz is by far my least favorite marathon training system. There's a lot of complexity that's unnecessary. What I do like about Fitz, though, that none of the other marathon training plans have, is that you get the midweek long run, the midweek kind of long run. So it will give you, and I'm talking here about whatever the longest mileage plans are. Those are the ones that I look at across all these books. So Fitz will give you something like a 14 or 15 mile midweek long run. Daniels, in most of his plans, and the ones I like the best, they're 2Q. So what he does is, hey, I'm going to give you a percentage of weekly mileage that you should hit. So say 0.9 or something. And if you're going to peak at 100 miles per week, that means run 90 miles this week. Then he'll give you 2Q or 2 quality sessions. So one could be 22E, which would correspond to 22 at your easy pace. If you were a 2:30 marathoner, that could be 22 at a 6:45 pace. And then the second session could be something like 2E plus 2x4T plus 2E, which would be 2 mile warm up and cool down, and then 2 sets of 4 miles at threshold pace. Again, if you're a 2:30 marathoner, that would correspond to about a 5:25 pace. So that's Daniels, that's Fitz. Daniels is less frequency, less prescribed frequency, more freedom as well. And that is an element of it too, where if you open up the Daniels book, the main plans that he has, the 2Q is what most people follow. It's not telling you what to do every day, versus Fitz, it tells you what to do every single day, which I do not like. That's one of the main reasons I don't like Fitz. And then also the workouts in there to me are just fine. There's a lot of variation. There's, I think for Fitz too, a little bit too much emphasis on the faster stuff. Yeah, marathon training time for me is not the time to do a bunch of VO2 max stuff. So not my favorite. And then Hudson, man, I've just been loving Hudson recently. It's a bit of an evolution from Daniels. So Hudson, lots of variation, and he does give you workouts for every day like Fitz, but it's a little bit more flexible, and I've just been taking his main sessions. Hudson, he's also the only one who's putting hill sprints in there. I also really do like the Hudson style long run workouts where he has variation, and he also does a lot of the Canova style where you're doing under and over the pace. Now, the nuance with Hudson is that his entire theory is adaptive running. So if you read the book, throughout the book, in every single section, he's giving different workouts that correspond to the different fitness factors that he wants you to develop. Then at the end of the book, he also does have workout plans. But the whole goal with the Hudson system is that you are your own coach, and you can pull from the different elements of the book when it suits you to develop those different fitness factors. His workouts are really good. I also think, oh, stop it. Who's calling me, man? Telemarketers, bro. Telemarketers. Yeah, his workouts are the best. They do a nice job between something like Fitz, which feels very high frequency, and Daniels, which is low frequency. Hudson is, higher frequency. I would say it's almost moderate frequency, moderate pace. There's nothing that's going to completely smash you like a Daniels, but you're always keeping that intensity. You're always keeping the mustard on the dog. So right now, my personal favorite is the Hudson. I think everyone should do a block or two of the Daniels because that, man, especially if you're trying to do something like a sub 3 and you can run 70 to 80 miles per week, Daniels is goated for that because you will be grinding on these long tempos. It really teaches you how to adapt to the demands of the marathon, which is high mileage and hanging on to that pace. So that's Daniels versus Fitz versus Hudson. If I had to rank them for most people, I would say Hudson. It's in the middle of Daniels and Fitz. Then I would put Daniels right below that. Daniels is also not a great one for beginners just because his background is more for elite runners. The plans are written for elite runners. It's much better if you can run a 3-hour marathon or below. And then Fitz, I would put number 3, but that is one that a lot of recreational runners like, especially if you're in that 3 to 4 hour marathon range. It does a good job really breaking down the different types of workouts for people and doing a lot of hand holding. I personally do not like a lot of hand holding, but if that's what you do like, if you're a spreadsheet type of person, you will like Fitz. Rank the following in terms of importance for the marathon. So volume, threshold, marathon pace, steady work, and interval/repetitions. Now, this is a tough question because, and I'm not going to do the thing where I don't answer the question. I will answer the question. But this is a tough thing because all of these are important at different times. And yeah, if you look at any of those books that I just mentioned, Daniels, Fitz, or Hudson's, they will give you the 12-week or 16-week marathon training plan. But to be a good marathoner or a great marathoner, the best thing you can do is consistent volume over time and to always be doing intervals, always be doing marathon pace work. That's what's cool about Hudson as well. He really preaches staying in shape throughout the year and having that variation throughout the year. And that's what I like as well. I don't love doing, okay, this is a speed block now, or this is a specific thing. I always like to keep the volume moderately high, 100 plus. I always do the 20-mile long run. I've now always started incorporating the hill sprints, and I always do some sort of intermediary pace work. So they're all important. It's just different doses. Now, if we're talking about the last 16 weeks or the last 12 weeks preparing for the marathon, which is, I'm assuming, the heart of this question right here, marathon pace work would be the number one thing. And of course, volume is important, but if we're thinking about the levers we can pull, would I rather dial up marathon pace work to the maximum we can do without getting injured, or would I rather dial up volume to the maximum we could do? I would rather dial up marathon pace work. So marathon pace work is the most specific. That's important. It's kind of hard with I'm getting another, how do I stop these people from calling? Got a brother down. Telemarketers. That coffee really is good. Yeah, mileage is super important. And in general, it's the most important thing. It's just a tough question because I don't know, right? Somebody, if you're only running 60 miles per week, then there's an implication of how fast you'll be. There's nobody running a 2:07 marathon who peaks at 60 miles per week or who cannot run more than 60 miles per week or who's never run 100 miles a week. Everyone who's running a 2:07 marathon is running at least 80 plus miles per week, right? So in the global view of our training, volume is 100% the most important. But in the last 12 to 16 weeks, you can dial it down. I am of the mind, and where I've seen the most success over the past few years is not trying to run 100% of my max volume in the last 12 weeks of a marathon, especially in the last 6 weeks before a marathon, dialing it down to 90% and then really cranking up the marathon pace work. So I would say marathon pace work, number 1, volume, number 2, again, just because of its global importance. And then the next 3 are all specific types of workouts. So threshold work, steady work, and interval/repetitions. If you're doing marathon pace work, the steady work, the theory is that it supports, and that is literally what Canova calls it, support paces. So running 5% slower than marathon pace or 10% slower. So it is important. Threshold to me, though, is the number 3 here. And especially if you are trying to break through to a new level, and there's different types of marathon training. There's maintaining, and a lot of what the elites do is it's almost maintaining because their gains are so small. And of course, they want to get fast, but they're not taking huge chunks or huge leaps. Versus hobby joggers, we can take 30 minutes off of our time. So doing something like threshold work for hobby joggers, to me, feels like the most important thing after marathon pace work, because those are the most important support paces. It will give you another gear. It also helps build fatigue resistance, and it's a really good mental grind, man. If you're doing a 8-mile threshold session, 2x4 miles, something like that, it is a great marathon preparation session because you just get so fatigued, and it's painful, and it does prepare you for the pain. So threshold number 3, shout out to Daniels. Steady work. Now we're getting into these things that I don't think are that important. The steady stuff is good, but I would almost add that into the aerobic, just typical everyday aerobic runs. And that is one thing that's unique with the Hudson system. So he has a lot of progression runs and moderate runs, and that's something that I've enjoyed a lot too. So for my afternoon run, instead of doing a 8:30 pace jog, if I'm going 4 miles, I'll try to bang the last mile below a 7, get down to 6:30 or 6:20, that moderate pace. So it is important, but it's not as specific and important. For me, it helps just maintain the sharpness and the quickness, which is the same thing with the intervals. I'm putting that all the way down at number 5, though. You really do not need a lot of interval pace work. You don't need a lot of 5K to 3K pace work in the last 12 weeks. You should be getting as specific as possible. It's good to keep that high turnover up, but yeah, the best marathon training systems aren't going to have you hammering VO2 max, a ton of VO2 max workouts. Now, Daniels will put 2 or 3 key strategic sessions throughout. Hudson has it as well, but you got to think about overall global importance. Would I rather do 1 VO2 max session? If I have 3 weeks left and I can do 1 key workout, or 4 weeks left and I can do 1 key fitness building workout, would I rather do a VO2 max session? Something like 5 by 800 at 5K pace, or 5 by 1K at 10K pace, or 5K pace? Would I rather do something like that, repetitions, VO2 max area, or would I rather do something specific like a 10-mile marathon pace tempo? I'm doing the 10-mile marathon pace tempo every single time. Every single time. So the specific stuff, to tie a bow on this, the specific stuff is the most important. And another reason is the mental demands of the marathon cannot be understated. Doing a half marathon race or doing 6 by 800 on the track, 12 by 400 on the track is so different than the actual marathon. So the more specific you can get, and I wish you put long runs on here because that would be number 1. And I guess we could, if we combined the marathon pace work and the volume, that would be the number 1, the marathon specific long runs. But yeah, marathon specific long runs, that's the best thing that you could do to run a fast marathon. Which brings us to question number 3 here. Best marathon race predictor workout. I'm actually going to put together a video with top 5 marathon simulation workouts, which is a little bit different. So a predictor will tell you what you are capable of running theoretically, right? So if you run a 1:10 half marathon, you put that in the predictor, it will tell you can run a 2:29 marathon. A simulator will simulate the demands of the marathon. Also, the family is home, so I will wrap on this question here, and then we can hit part 2. Maybe I'll throw a Supwell app ad read in the middle, since that's our only sponsor right now. Man, shout out the Supwell app. I heard the owner's a great guy. Best marathon race predictor workout. And this is something I've been thinking about for the video I'm putting together. Best does not mean easiest. The best marathon predictor or the best marathon simulator will not be easy. So for me, what I have found is 16-mile tempo at marathon pace is a really good predictor. If you can do that and keep the heart rate in check, and he asked level of effort heart rate, I would say a 7 to 8 out of 10. If you can do that and get through it, you'll be good. Another one that people like that I haven't personally done is 10 plus 10. So 10 relaxed or 10 steady into 10 at marathon pace. I've never done that one. Another good one is, this is probably the best race predictor because you get the fatigue. 3 by 2 miles threshold in the beginning. So 2 mile warm up, 3 by 2 mile threshold, 10 steady into the last 6 at marathon pace. And I wouldn't even worry about the heart rate, and this is 20 plus mile long run. Let's call it a 22 mile long run. If you can, in the longer, the better. And it's going to depend again on your fitness. And this is not supposed to be easy. This is not the least injury risk marathon workouts. These are the biggest. And I'll do an entire video on the simulators. But if you can run that workout with the last 6 just at marathon pace after getting 6 miles in at threshold earlier, again, 2 by 3 miles with 2 minutes recovery at the end of a peak week, you'll be good. You'll be good. And it doesn't sound like that much running 4 to 6 miles at the end of a long run like that at marathon pace. But in a peak week, being super fatigued, that is a great predictor. So if you can run that last 6 miles at marathon pace, you'll be golden. I wouldn't worry about heart rate too much, man. It's one of those things for me, heart rate, where yeah, it's good to look at it. I like looking at the recovery metrics. I like in general seeing what it is. But when you're in peak training, your heart rate is going to be a lot lower anyway than it is on race day. And then also on race day, I've found for some reason my heart rate is usually, probably because of nerves, higher in the beginning and then it drops. So I wouldn't worry so much about heart rate. But for any of these, 7 to 8, if the long run one, probably 8, an 8 out of 10 on the RPE scale, which sounds high, but you're going to be grinding after throwing down some threshold pace. And stay tuned for that full simulator video. Again, simulator is different than predictor. All right. That was 52 minutes for this session. We will take a break, maybe throw in a supple app read. What do you think? Supple app ad read. And we'll be back with some more Q&A. Let's go. We are back. Q&A, Mileage Pod, Part 2. Part 2. Should we get the screen share fired up again for any of the video folks? I think it's a nice effect to have the screen share because then you can see the question as well. So shout out Chris J for the last question, the marathon predictor, and stay tuned for the marathon simulation workout. All right, next question we have here. Another old shoe question from Josh Sanchez, no bio. He says, love your old Saucony Triumph 20 videos. That was one of the 10 or so shoes I had when I first started the YouTube channel, and I would just grind out videos on that. Is it still a rotation-worthy shoe in 2026? It's still a good shoe. I think I ran in it in 2025, maybe, or end of 2024. It's still solid. I will say, though, Aeroglide 3 just feels like an updated version of that. They're coming out with the 4 as well. So instead of buying a Saucony Triumph 20 in 2026, I would say buy an Aeroglide 3 on discount. I think you can get it for around $100 with our discount code because it's very similar. Similar stack, similar foam, beaded TPU, but a better geometry, lighter weight, I believe, and the bounce is just incredible. It feels like the best version of the Triumph 20. So yeah, Triumph 20 is still great, but more stability, more bounce, more fun in the Aeroglide. Just the perfect execution of that format. All right, next question. Doc G. He's plugging his IG in his bio. Shout out to Derm Runs. He said, you made some serious gains since you got into marathoning. What is something you wish you would have done from the start? So this was a question that I did see before I went out for my run, and I was thinking about it. And I know this seems like a cop-out, but nothing really. There isn't anything I wish I did differently. Now, that's not to say I trained perfectly from when I started running in 2020. I got injured, of course. I talked about that. I got injured in 2022. I've made training mistakes, not periodizing things perfectly, training too hard during certain times, or not running enough marathon specific pace before a race. But the way that I've gotten better is by making some of these small mistakes. Now, you don't want to get injured all the time. That's a mistake you only need to make once. But by making that mistake once, I've been able to figure out how not to. So I've trained really well since I started marathoning, which is, I think how I've been able to consistently get faster without getting injured. Now, of course, I wish I ran a sub 230 last year, which is my goal, but such a small difference between a 232 and a 230 that's really nitpicking. The progression has been great. 2022, when I first started, first marathon was the 319. I didn't run another marathon until, was it 2024? Yep, 2024. I ran a 249 and then a 239. In 2023, I brought my half marathon time down to 119. And then last year, I went from a 239 to a 232. Who knows what's going to happen this year, but I'm on the right track. So the things that I have done well are slowly increasing the volume over time. There's this graph on my Nike Run Club. I don't think I have the app installed, but it shows the annual increases, and it was literally a perfect increase every year from 2022 or even 2020 to 2025. It was a perfect, or no, 2024, because I did back-to-back 5,000 mile years in 24 and 25, but it was a perfect step increase where each year I was running more miles. So 1,000 miles, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, whatever it was. I don't remember the exact progression. Maybe it was even 500, 1,000, but that type of progression over time is what you want to do, ideally. And then the first few years I was running, 2020 to 22, I was slowly increasing. Hey, I'm running 3 runs a week and then 5 runs a week. So that's what you really want to be doing, increasing your frequency over time, slowly, very slowly. And I just did it naturally. This wasn't perfectly planned. I just started getting more and more addicted. So I was running more and more. At the beginning, it was one part of the overall general fitness system. And then it became more of, I specifically want to get faster at these longer distances. So yeah, I think I've done a nice job. And with the marathon, I've done a nice job. I'm trying to think of, I really couldn't think of anything I wish I would have done from the start. I guess the fueling, the long run fueling, I used to struggle a lot on the long runs when I was doing that 16 by 16. So 16 weeks of 16-mile long runs. I wish I would have been having gels because it makes a whole lot of a difference. Yeah, not trying to be a hardo and not do gels. But for the most part, even when I'm just, because I used to just try to run as many miles as possible and not care so much about running specific workouts, but you can't really do damage by doing that. You can't do damage by stacking a lot of aerobic volume. So I'm not saying I've trained perfectly or anything, but just that progression of mileage over time without getting injured, that's what you want to see to get better at the marathon. You know, it's something that I accidentally did from the start. All right. Second question, 3 races anywhere in the world. Which 3 would top your list? I really want to run the London Marathon. That is number 1. I still would love to get a bib for this year, but it's 2.5 months away. And I don't know if I'm really plugged in like that. So I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, London, top of the list. Sydney, I want to go to Australia. I really want to see all the Bogans. I want to see Jackie Craig's, run with him. So I'd love to go to Australia and run the Sydney Marathon. I don't know. I'm not in love with just running majors, but if I go to Australia, I think planning it around the Sydney Marathon would be cool. And then third race anywhere in the world, maybe Tokyo. I know Charlie really wants to go to Tokyo, so that would be cool. And I guess we can't just go for a normal vacation. It has to be planned around my running. But London is 100% top of the list right now. That's the one that I really want to do, London Marathon. I know it's also a fast course. So yeah, that's number 1. London, Sydney, and Tokyo. So the international majors will be cool. Jonathan Dober, Ohio hobby jogger. He asks, what are your thoughts on run clubs? Have you been part of one before, or do you prefer to get your mileage alone? My thoughts, it's great. It's great that we have groups of people who want to get after it together. It's great for society that we're now encouraging people to do these. I've heard that some run clubs are even sort of dating scenes now. I guess that's cool too. I mean, we need more places where people can just go and meet each other in real life. Because once you graduate from college, as an adult, it's really hard to make new friends. So I love run clubs from that angle. For the most part, they're doing good. I know some people don't like run clubs because they take up too much space on the side of the road and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know. So I guess I'm pro run club. I have nothing against them. For me personally, though, I don't go to run clubs just for the time use. Maybe I've been once or twice before. I don't even know if I've gone to a run club, but yeah, for me, it's really about optimizing my time. And it's very similar to trail running, where if I'm going to a trail, it takes at least 10 minutes to drive there or more. The really good trails are an hour plus away. So a run club is a similar thing. I'd be sacrificing mileage to go to the run club. And with the way that I train, also the paces that I'm doing, I don't know, there are some benefits to it, but there's not a lot of run clubs around me that would be conducive to training the way I want to train. So again, nothing against it, but I definitely prefer to get my mileage alone personally, but huge net positive on society at large. It would be cool to do a Supwall run club or at least a meetup at some point. All right, Eddie Almanza, curious about your sleep game and how you're able to get some quality rest/recovery when you're balancing so much in your life and running so much. So I talked a little bit about the time earlier. I'm not waking up super early a lot of the time, but so I'm firing on my chorus. Wow, last night I got 8 hours and 40 minutes. That's crazy. That's crazy because Charlie was in bed early and I decided to get in bed early too. I think I got in bed at something like 8, but you also have to think about the night before. I woke up at 4 a.m. So I was making up for sleep last night, 8 hours and 40 minutes. Typically, that's not what I'm getting. Yeah, if you look at the past week, I'm averaging 6 hours and 32 minutes. So I'll just go over the past week. Yeah, 8:40 today, but the night before, 4 hours and 44 minutes. Night before that, 6 hours, 23 minutes. 7 hours, 17 minutes, 6 hours, 15 minutes, 5 hours, 32 minutes, and 6 hours, 57 minutes. So I've been averaging below 7 hours recently, which is not great. But with the other things that I do, so I don't drink alcohol. I really prioritize getting enough calories in. It can balance it out. But that's the number one thing, that not drinking, not doing anything that's going to reduce your recovery and actively harm the body, and then fueling well, it can balance out these periods of rough patches. But yeah, I find I do terribly if I'm below 6 hours for a long time. Even right now, I can feel I'm pretty tired, and I did the long run earlier today. But yeah, I try to shoot for around 7. I'm typically in bed by about 10 p.m., but I'm working from 7 a.m. at least. So yeah, it is super important. I don't like to be below 7 hours for too long. And it's tough, but we work on it. All right. Next question. Although making a big comeback, this is our guy Chris again, a hypothesis on why running is generally viewed poorly or as an undesirable task in the USA on average. Yeah, the real reason here why running isn't, I think, a desirable task for Americans is because, well, one, it's hard and we don't like hard things. But two, the use of punishment in team sports. That's the classic thing. A lot of people who came to running later in life will say, yeah, I played team sports growing up and running was used as punishment. So they just associate running with it. Also, it is really gosh dang hard to run a mile if you are not running. You could be in really good shape, quote unquote, good shape, good fitness. And this is the thing about general fitness versus specific fitness. And I'm hoping to talk about this with my next podcast guest. But general fitness is being able to, I don't know, deadlift 100 pounds, being able to do 10 push-ups, being able to jog for 15 minutes without stopping, being able to do a 3-hour hike, not at a certain pace, but just to go on that hike and not be super out of breath, being able to pick up your kids, being able to walk around Disney all day without being super fatigued, being at a certain BMI. That is general fitness, right? Specific fitness is I'm going to go out and run a sub 25-minute 5K or a sub 3:30 marathon. That is specific fitness. And so for people who are focused on developing specific fitness of running 1 mile is nothing. But if you are someone who's generally fit, if you do CrossFit, if you go to the gym, even if you do Orange Theory and other cardio-based classes, running is really hard. Running is really hard. And the way that most people do running is by running hard. Let me say that again. The way that most people do running, the way that most people approach running, not hobby joggers, not most people listening to this podcast, but the majority of non-specific fitness-focused runners out there, the way that the majority of those people approach running is by going out and going hard. Zone 4. That's the whole point of Orange Theory. That's what Orange Theory is. Did you know that? Orange Theory is based on the orange zone of the heart rate. There's this whole theory that by getting your heart rate up into the orange zone, it has these certain benefits. So it's a zone 4 class. And zone 4 running is not pleasant. It's basically half marathon pace for a lot of people, maybe even faster. So zone 4 running, think about how you feel at the end of a hard half marathon or 10K. Think about if you're an hour-long 10K runner, a 60-minute 10K runner, think about how you feel at the end of that 10K. If you're a 90-minute and below half marathon runner, think about how you feel mile 11 of a half marathon. That's how most people feel when trying to run a mile 1 minute in. That's why running is viewed as an undesirable task. It's really hard if you don't do it. But then when you work at it and you consistently do it, I can run a 9-minute mile and my heart rate will be at, 110, 115. And regardless of heart rate or pace ranges, the more you run, the more you do it, the easier it gets. So if you're listening to this podcast, if you're a Supwell sicko or a dedicated runner, a hobby jogger, the idea of running a mile or 2 miles likely doesn't scare you, or even walking a mile for some people. But for the vast majority of people out there, and I'm even talking about generally fit people, I'm not talking about the general population, which would be even harder for them to run a mile. But for the most people out there, it is really hard. That's why running is viewed as an undesirable task. It's hard, man. It's hard, man. But the more you work at it, the smoother it will get. All right, Daniel M., my guy, heavyweight champ is his bio. Top 5 coffee roasts from any roaster. And then how do I stay sane during treadmill runs? So top 5 coffee roasts. So if you watch the channel, you know I'll just put whenever I'm drinking something I really like this Candy Hearts, I think it's the Rodrigo Sanchez, I'll just talk about it a lot. I don't track it so much. Reason being, the roasts always change. So with these third wave roasters like a Black and White or a Hex, or with the Fellow Drops, any of these companies that are sourcing really high quality single origin beans from either countries in Africa or South America, they rotate through the types. You're not going to have the same single origin roast for the entire year. That's why I don't track it so much, because if I like something, chances are when I go to reorder in a month, because I get the 2-pound bags, it's not going to be there. Sometimes it is, and I'll reorder again. So I'm really liking this. In terms of what I typically like, so I started coffee with Ethiopian natural processed coffee. That was my favorite. Very jammy, blueberry jam, blueberry pancakes, raspberry flavors, but this rich, full-bodied, heavy mouthfeel type of experience. I really like anaerobic natural. Now I'm also gravitating more towards the South American with specialty fermentation processes. Those are probably my favorites. That's what this Rodrigo Sanchez is. But really, any single origin lighter roast coffee is great for me. I don't like stuff that's too funky. I don't like when it starts tasting like kombucha or natural wine, when it can get just that almost rotten taste. But the sweeter, the better for me. The rich mouthfeel is great. Yeah, Rwandans are great. Just generalizing, Rwandans are great. The Colombia, when they do the crazy fermentation processes, those are really good. Yeah, the Ethiopian natural used to be my favorite. I think I just drank it too much. That's a good place to start, though, if you're not super into the single origin and you want a recommendation. I would say Ethiopian natural. And then how I stay sane during treadmill runs, I listen to music. I always listen to music, and I'll typically have ESPN or whatever at the gym on, because I don't listen to music out there on the roads. So it's nice to have it on the treadmill, and I just don't mind it. I don't know. It's not too bad for me. But I also think, to go back to the last question or 2 questions ago, hypothesis on why running is viewed poorly or as an undesirable task. If you're still in the beginning stages of running and you have those 2 paces, which are walking or dying, if you're on the treadmill and you're just dying, that's not going to be fun. It's a lot better to be outside. And I do prefer to be outside, but good music, or I was going to say good podcast, but I don't know. I just need that music on the treadmill. That's what keeps me sane. And then I just generally don't mind it that much. All right, my guy Josh Spivey. Do you feel shoes respond more to pace or to effort? Does a shoe have an ideal speed where it works best? or does it unlock once you reach a certain intensity, regardless of how fast that is for the runner? Both, man, both. There's some shoes that are pace limited, like a Nike Streak Fly 2. I don't think, regardless of your relative paces, I don't think that shoe is going to feel great at a 9-minute or 10-minute mile. Maybe even something like the Fast R3 as well. And Thomas from Believe in the Run said the same thing. He said, man, that shoe, I can't get it going at my paces. But then there's other shoes, Super Blast, the Daily Trainers, Mega Blast, Aero Glide, SC Elite V5. There's other shoes that are more relative, where regardless of what your 5K pace is, it will feel better at that effort. The more approachable race shoes are like that, something like the SC Elite V5 or the Deviate Nitro Elite 4, those feel great for any type of runner, any type of race pace. You just got to be running slightly faster in them. So that's a great question. It's a little bit of both. There are some shoes, well, I'll say in my review, yeah, if you're running this pace range, I wouldn't get it. The Fast R3 is a great example. It's just that the more aggressive a shoe gets, the more compromises and trade-offs there tend to be. So with the Fast R3 and the Streak Fly, they're cutting down a lot of areas in the back where you typically have support. The platform doesn't feel great if you're landing on the back, and the longer you spend in the shoe, it doesn't feel great. And that's another dynamic, time on feet. So marathon pace for a 2-hour marathoner or 2:05 will take you 2 hours to complete. It doesn't matter that you're running a 4:40 mile or whatever it is. Marathon pace for a 4-hour marathoner, again, ignore whatever the actual pace is, 9 minutes per mile. You're going to be spending 4 hours out there. So that's just another dynamic. And my highest viewed video of all time was actually discussing that. Here's why pace matters when picking a race shoe. And that was the whole hypothesis there, that yes, pace is important, but also for race paces, and specifically with the marathon, the faster you are, the less time you're going to be spending on your feet. I would not want to have the Fast R3 on my feet for 5 hours, but for 2.5 hours to 3 hours, it's great. Shout out Josh Spivey, man. Only real mileage is going to last. Daniel Russell. Are you happy that you found running a bit later in life, or do you wish you would have started earlier? Anything I wish was different about the journey so far? For him, he said he wishes a lot of things he started earlier, but running found him as a perfect time as an adult. So I already talked about if I wished anything was different about just my progression, and no, I've liked how it's unfolded so far. I think about this one a lot, though. What would have happened if I was running earlier? I don't think I had the same dedication when I was in high school and college. So even if I were running, and even if I had the talent to do it, say I was running a 15-minute 5K or whatever the fast 5K time is, I don't think I would have been grinding out 110 miles a week in high school, in college, and wanting to do that. In high school, I wanted to hang out with my friends and optimize for doing as little work as possible. Not that I didn't also value academics. I always understood academics were important, but yeah, I wasn't going out of my way to add extra hard work to my life in high school. I wanted to play sports with my friends, go to the gym, do other extracurricular activities, you could call them. So yeah, I always prioritized my health. I always ate healthily. Even in high school, I was hitting the gym probably 5 days a week. I loved lifting, but just I don't think I would have been going out of my way to stack 120 miles per week or 80 miles a week. Maybe, though, with how much I loved the lifting, but it was always a very independent thing for me with the lifting, where I wasn't following somebody else's program. I was doing it myself. I was doing it because I wanted to. I think it would have been hard for me to fall in with a team and really be about it for running. But yeah, other side of the coin is, and then same thing for college, just absolutely not. I was having fun partying and doing all other sorts of stuff. And again, I did prioritize my academics and internships and working, but I don't think I would have been grinding out 100 miles per week. But the other side is, if I did discover some talent and if I were pushed in the right direction, maybe it would have unlocked something. And I do think about that because I'm running a 2:32 now. Yeah, that's great. If I'd been running for 2 decades, how fast could I be at the marathon right now? It's a hard question to answer. It's kind of a painful one because you never know and you can't get those 2 decades back. So all we can do is the best we have now. I do know, though, if I were running earlier from a young age, I wouldn't be doing this now. I wouldn't be reviewing shoes. I would never have started Supwell. A lot of the people who run at a high level competitively from a younger age, they stop running. You either become a pro or you quit running. There's a smaller cohort of people who still hang on and they run 2:20 marathons or 2:15 marathons and they OTQ, but for the most part, they're not still getting after it in that mid 210 to 240 range. They're moving on to other things, which makes sense. It's basically a part-time job. If you're a D1 athlete in college, it's a part-time job. There's a lot of structure. You're waking up early to get your mileage in. You're waking up early to do your workouts or to go to practice. It's not necessarily fun. And a lot of the D1 athletes I know, they don't even exercise intensely anymore after college because it's really hard. So that is the positive of coming to it later in life. Shout out Dan Russell. All right, Jason, man, shout out to Jason, man. He's one of the earliest viewers of the channel. He's been rocking with it for a long time. Jason Rams, is it Rams or Rams? But he asks, how have I or do I get the family involved in running? He says, oftentimes I feel alone in my journey as my wife doesn't I feel like should I not read his question just in case his wife is listening? But I guess if his wife isn't involved in his journey, she probably won't be listening. I'll just read his question. Oftentimes I feel alone I'm sorry if I'm putting you on blast, Jay. Oftentimes I feel alone in my journey as my wife doesn't exactly support my running, and trying to get to events felt more like asking for permission in a chore. And then he also says, I love my wife a lot, extremely. And if she's listening right now, you're the best, honey. And then he closes by saying, also due to this, I just want to say thank you for the community. It is 100% my outlet. Yeah, shout out to Supwell. Yeah, I feel you, bro. It's hard. It's hard to balance everything. Again, for me, it's a little easier now because I have the business and there's a financial upside to the running now because it's, okay, I'm reviewing the shoes. That's a business. But yeah, I try to be as not annoying as possible with my running. That's why for a long time I didn't race a lot. Every time I do a marathon, it is a disruption to the family life. So that is something I am still trying to figure that out. I was planning on doing a marathon later in the spring. Then I got invited to go to this trip. So I don't know if I'm going to do that. Do I want to drag the family to the middle of nowhere to run a marathon? I don't know. It's tough. And then with the marathons too and the traveling, you have the consideration of kids and school. So there is a little bit of church and state where, yeah, if you're a dedicated runner, if you're a sicko, if you're a hobby jogger, I don't know. It is a selfish pursuit, running. It really is. And think about it as another sport, golfing. How are you going to get your wife involved in your golfing hobby or your fishing hobby or your watch collecting hobby? You're not. So everybody's going to have a different interest. Your wife probably has her own hobbies. I think just not letting it intrude too much is a good rule of thumb. The difference between golfing, fishing, and watch collecting with the running, though, is that there is the benefit of I'm showing up with more energy. You're taking care of yourself. So I think if you can show that, it's good. If you come back from your run and say, that was probably pretty loud, that clap. But if you say, how can I help you, honey? Just energetic. If you have young kids too, taking them out in the stroller run, find a Bob on Facebook Marketplace, get a Bob and start taking your kids out to give your wife more time or your husband. But I'm guessing if you're listening to this, I'm not guessing. If you're listening to this, there's a 96% chance you're a man. I am trying to change that. But here we are. Yeah, trying to get to events felt more like asking for permission or a chore. That's tough, bro. Solo time trials, I guess. Solo time trials in the morning. No, I think if you can find events that are more fun for the kids. So I did the Coast Guard Marathon a few years ago that had a ton of stuff for the kids. Kiowa Marathon that we did in December. Also, I got a nice Airbnb. That's the thing, man. If you're going to do these marathons and travel, if you can make it a nice experience for the family, that's going to be a whole lot better. Now, I understand there's a financial component of it too, where you don't want to blow your life savings on a vacation, but within your means, making it nice, making it something that your family's going to want to do, making it an experience for them, taking them out to eat or whatever, that can be helpful for sure versus staying in a Motel 6 or just something random. And I think also with the marathons, picking the dates in the races in partnership with your spouse, right? So lining it up and then also the location, because nobody wants to go to the middle of Delaware in January. So picking a destination that's going to be fun. And it does mean making some trade-offs. The flattest, fastest marathon might not be the one that your entire family wants to go to. That's why the majors are so good, because they're in cool cities. They're fun. I get the whole major thing, because it is a big experience that everyone can enjoy versus doing the Rehoboth Beach, whatever. Shout out Jason, man. I hope that was helpful. There's a reason I'm not a marriage therapist, though. All right, this was a big thread here. Caleb Beck. Would you ever consider adding on divisions to your review empire, similar to Believe in the Run? Shout out Thomas. I know a real sicko that loves trails in North Idaho. Winky face. Would I ever consider adding or expanding the reviewers? Definitely, man. Definitely. I would love to do that. I would love to have other voices on the channel, like we've elevated Donnie before, and he's done some reviews. I would love to have a break. Could you imagine if I had 2 other people who did reviews and I got 1 day off a week now? Technically I get a day off a week now because we have the podcast, but is that really a day off? Because I have to shoot an entire podcast. But if we have more people, that would be great. It's just different stages for different times. I'm still in the building stage. I am the face of the brand. So when it makes sense, we'll do that, and it will naturally evolve. But I'm not opposed to it at all. That's why it's Sup While Running. It's not Joanna running. It's really important to me that we have other voices eventually, and it is more about the community. And that's one thing that's great about the app right now is it's a way for other people to do reviews and to share their insights. So yes, 100%, I will consider adding different people in the future. I don't know when that time is, but it will for sure come. All right, we will leave it there. We'll take a break, and then I'll be back to close it out with, I think, one more set of Q&A. We'll see how many of these we can get through. What is up, Hobby Jogger Nation, Mileage Gang? We are back up on the Mileage Podcast live from the beautiful hotel in Lille, France. I brought my podcast mic and everything, and probably one of the things that contributed to my suitcase being a $200 overweight bag fee, because the podcast mic weighs about 5 pounds. I'm looking at it right there. But my computer is exporting today's video, which is the Kipstorm Tempo long run. So I'm not able to plug the podcast mic in there and get the podcast software fired up, because that would likely crash my computer. Also, being down here at the Kip Run HQ with the Running Warehouse team, and also having my iPhone 17 Pro here, which has just been an incredible tool for filming everything this week. I've pretty much switched over to 100% of filming on my iPhone, other than the runs, which I have the Insta360, but it's really taught me the importance of having good, reliable tech. So I'm 99% sure I'm going to buy a new MacBook when I get home, because this MacBook, oh my goodness, I've lost probably a good 90 minutes of sleep every night because this MacBook is horrible and just takes so long to process files. I'm also going to upgrade my, what's it called, external hard drive situation. It's just been kind of a grind with the tech. But iPhone 17 Pro, arrow up, computer, arrow down. It's a MacBook from 2019. So we're getting it in on the iPhone and the DJI mic. I honestly love this mic. It's been a complete tank for this trip as well. Is it good? Should I move it up? Probably should not mess with it, right? I probably just should leave it because I did test it already, but I think it's going to be good. So we're going to finish the rest of the Q&A here. I did the first 2 parts. I also went super deep because somebody asked about the Supwell app. So I went super deep doing a demo on the Supwell app. And then we actually just did a pretty big design overhaul on the 2.0 over the past week, and we're making some changes to it. It's going to be really cool. It's almost there. So we're not going to do any of the supple app stuff. I texted Grant and told him to delete that from the podcast, but we will pick it up right where we left off. So if you asked about the supple app, stay tuned because we'll have some new stuff coming soon. So let me see. I'm trying to find this. Yeah, I think Weston asked about the supple app. What I can say is that the historic content from the Circle app, when we do move over, it's not going to be on the new one because we're starting from the ground up. All right. Moving up here, Frank asks about starting a YouTube channel. What would I prioritize at the outset? Man, that's such a good question. And the next one is about what's the mission and vision for what Supwell and the brand will become. So why don't we talk about both of those? Man, at the beginning of starting a channel, you got to focus on finding your voice because there's so many channels, there's so many things that people can watch. And the reason why I have been able to build this up to where it is now is because I have a distinct voice, and it's a niche, right? It is a niche. It is a small group of people who are obsessed with running shoes, obsessed with getting after it, who like pushing themselves and getting better. And I've found a voice and carved out something that's unique and different. There's a sea of sameness out there when it comes to running shoe reviews. There's so many people who do running shoes. So it's really important that you find your voice, find your own angle. What is your interest in it? Why are you doing running shoes? What makes it interesting to you? Or if it's not running shoes, whatever makes the topic interesting to you. And also, what can you bring that's different? What makes you a special snowflake? What makes you unique? And it just takes some time. So I think that's the number one thing, finding your voice. And for me, it's a process of just putting stuff out there, iterating. I'm constantly evolving the product here and adapting. Like I was just saying 2 minutes ago, I've switched to the DJI mic and the iPhone for most of this trip. But yeah, I'm constantly evolving how I'm approaching the videos. I'm constantly evolving what I'm bringing to the videos. I'm constantly evolving the tech and everything behind it. So it's never just set. And I don't feel like I've made it. I don't feel like I'm this super established, successful person. But when it comes to the running shoes, I have put myself on the map, and I'm now a go-to resource in this space. But it is eye-opening sometimes to, for example, be out here this week at the Kip Run HQ. Nobody knows who I am. Nobody cares who I am. So there's always going to be room to grow. But it's really important that you just establish a vision, establish a voice, and figure out what makes you special. And the way to get there, brute force. You could spend all day coming up with taglines. You can spend all day writing the perfect script in a Google Doc, coming up with the perfect angles. Man, the amount of time I used to spend at the beginning of starting my channel trying to get the audio perfect, trying to cut out every mistake in a video. And if you listen to my videos, man, I mess up all the time. I'll say something over again. I'll stumble. It's okay. Focus on getting things out there. Focus on putting shots up on the net. That's what the mileage mentality is all about. Oh, sorry. That's what the kilometrage mentality is all. Kilometrage. See, I messed up right there. It's kind of a mouthful. Kilometrage mentality. There's got to be a better way to say it, because mileage mentality sounds great, especially in my American accent. And by the way, somebody yesterday said I had a French accent. I don't think that's how it works. I don't think I get a French accent after spending 5 days in France. But yeah, the kilometrage mindset. How do you say kilometrage? Mindset, but with the mindset part in France. Please let me know. But yeah, just the consistency, man, consistently putting up shots. And it's hard to be successful with social media. And I mean, it's hard to be successful with any business, let's be real. But especially with social media, and you put stuff out there, it gets no views. Maybe it gets 1 view, 10 view. It is really hard to be successful with it, but sticking with it and committing to doing something every day, for me personally, has been so powerful. I wouldn't be here without the daily grind. I would not be here without putting up videos every single day, because not only does it force you to go through the habit and beat it into yourself and to develop that consistency, it also accelerates that learning curve. That is the secret powerful thing of going every day. And I think I talked about this either earlier or in a different video, but maybe in the podcast kickoff video. By doing a video every day, within 10 days, you'll have 10 videos. If you do a video every week, it will take you 2.5 months. Even if you do 2 videos a week, it will take you a month and a half to get to 10 videos. So going every day, yes, it's a grind, but if you're really committed, it doesn't have to be putting up a full video every day, but doing something will really help you figure it out. Or it will help you decide that it's not for you, because it's not for everyone. And if your mission is to get out the word of running, or to show how, I don't know, show your cooking skills or something, maybe YouTube's not the channel for you. Maybe it's Instagram, or maybe there's a different path. Maybe it's becoming a coach. But by putting yourself through the gauntlet and grinding it out, you'll figure out pretty quickly what it takes to be successful, or pivot and find an avenue where you can be successful. Then the second question here was, beyond this becoming a full-time gig, what's your mission, vision for what the Supwell/Ioana brand will become? Well, first thing there, my vision is that people can spell my name correctly. Shout out to Andrew Wilson, because he did. But yeah, if people could spell my name correctly all the time, that I would be happy. And then second question, what are key things that I want to build out in the next year here, YouTube, or elsewhere? What about longer term? What needs to happen for those things to come to fruition? Great question, Andrew. And I really hope it's not messing up when I come in and out. I would use my computer for the questions, but it's plugged in over there. Is it plugged in over there? Yes, it is. Okay, I got nervous for a second. Yeah, my computer's plugged in over there, and I'm sitting here. So yeah, my vision for the brand, what I need to do to get there, man. So it's a little bit of a chicken and egg situation with beyond this becoming a full-time gig. And the answer is, to get this to become a full-time gig, I'm sure you can figure out what the math equation is. I need to make more money. I need to be able to support my family from this. And I do have a great job, so there's no time pressure to leave that. But it's really, for me, how can we spread the word more? How can I make this more impactful? And if I were able to do this full-time, that would be the case. But I'm not in a rush to leave what I currently have, because it's great. Now, the other thing is, in terms of where I see us having more potential to grow, is doing things like this and doing more high impact partnerships with brands. Now, on this trip, I was not paid. The potential really comes from doing smart partnerships with brands where we are getting some value out of it and things that are mission aligned. So I'm really excited to do more partnerships with brands. I'm also excited to travel more. And the way I look at the business, we have two sides. We have the media side and we have the tech side. So podcast, media side, Instagram, media side, YouTube channel, media side. And then we have the app. Right now it straddles it, but when we have the new app launching, that's building up the tech side, and that gives us the opportunity to have something that can scale. That, yes, it will require me to do some marketing time to get users into the app, but the more people we have, the more it will spread via word of mouth, and we'll just have a different place and a different way to add value. I am super excited for the new app to be finished. Again, the timeline, we're still trying to hammer it out, but hopefully soon. The user experience is looking so great, but doing run tracking in there, doing training in there, it's really going to be a cool place. So that's my focus right now, getting that across the finish line, and then doing some more smart partnerships with brands. I almost feel like this podcast should be members only. I'm giving out too much free game. Shout out to Andrew Wilson putting in work. Yeah, his last part of the question is, what needs to happen for these things to come to fruition? I need to grind harder, man. No, I don't. I need to grind smarter. Calvin C., books I recommend for beginners and intermediate runners. And Robert Segarra, how do I know I'm ready to follow through with my goal? What's the best indicator? All right, books. Let's go. Oh gosh, sorry. I guess it's not even sorry to you. That was just sorry to me, because you can't even really see. It was just black, right? Books. Hold on, water. Books. Okay, beginner and intermediate runners. Hanson's. That's the best book for beginner runners from a training standpoint. Hanson's method is hands down the best way to train for a half marathon or marathon. By the way, if the camera is shaking, people complain sometimes that the camera is shaking. Yeah, it's going to shake. I'm on my iPhone. Hanson's marathon. Is it Hanson's marathon method? I think that's it. The Daniels book is also good to get a foundational understanding of training structure and how the elites do it and how some of the fastest people structure their training. And there's some technical specificities that have changed since Daniels came out, the arguments around the importance of threshold training, etc. But to learn the basic building blocks, the Daniels book is great. It's called Daniels Running Formula. The Fitzinger Advanced Marathon book is also good, not my personal favorite in terms of the training plan. Brad Hudson, How to Run Faster, that's a fantastic book. Now, if we think about outside of those, so those are all training, almost training theory with training plans and workouts that dive into the nitty gritty of science and then give you the practical application. If we go more theoretical, Cerruti, so get your hands on it. I think it's called How to Become a Champion by Percy Cerruti. He's from Australia, I believe. He was big into strength running, so getting strong runners, running hard on the sand dunes, just getting after it. He also had his runners do a lot of weighted exercises, and just his theory of being a savage is pretty cool. So I would check out Cerruti. Lydiard, he's all about mileage. He's all about steady state running. He's all about consistency over time versus thrashing yourself with track workouts. That's where I got a lot of my foundational philosophy. So he has a few different books. I think Running with Lydiard is one of them. It's funny. The books that he has in circulation it's almost like he's just talking to the editor at the end of a long career, just saying whatever the heck comes to his mind. So they're good reads, but they're also slightly politically incorrect in some places. It's funny reading them now in 2025 or 2026. So yeah, Lydiard. And then in terms of other not running books that are not theory, I just finished, what is it called? The classic running novel. What's it called? Once a Runner. Once a Runner. So good, dude. So good. There's some books. I read the other very popular running memoir because Charlie gave it to me for Christmas. I'm not going to put it on blast, but I thought it was highly overrated. The other popular running memoir, there was no through line. It wasn't, I don't know, the writing wasn't that great. The story wasn't that inspiring. Once a Runner, though, so relatable. The grind, I forget what chapter it is, but the one where he's talking about the feeling of just grinding through high mileage and how you're dragging all the time. You have no energy, but you're just pushing yourself to the limit to accomplish the task. It was one of the most beautifully written books, and also just connected with me as somebody who's trying to get after it and improve myself. So I think a lot of the people, if you like my channel and you have not read Once a Runner, read it. And I'm not a fiction person. I don't read fiction at all. That was the first novel or fiction book I've read cover to cover in a decade, maybe. I'm sure in college I read some novels for class. Probably the first fiction book I've read in years, and it was just absolutely incredible. So yeah, check those out. And then the other question was, how do you know you're ready for your goal? So it depends. Marathon, if you can hit, and I gave this answer earlier, but in marathon, if you can hit 10 to 14 miles of marathon pace, broken or unbroken, in a workout and recover. If you can run a 20-mile long run at a mile slower than marathon pace and feel decently fresh and not absolutely trashed, you'd be ready if you're running decent volume. It really depends, though. I mean, you've got to be able to run a few miles at your current race pace. 5K, if you could do 3 by 1 mile or 6 by 800 with a few minutes of recovery in between at your 5K race pace, you'll be ready. Half marathon, if you can run a 6 to 7 mile tempo during training in half marathon, or 2 by 4 miles broken up, you'll be ready. With the shorter distances, though, you can race when you're not ready. It doesn't really matter. If you're not ready for your race, I mean, if you're well trained, if you run 3, 4, 5, let's say 4 to 6 times a week, and you go out for a half marathon, the worst thing that's going to happen is you'll slow down. So there's not a huge risk. For the marathon, if you're not doing at least 16-mile long runs consistently, probably shouldn't just go out and run a marathon. I mean, you can. Anybody can. Anybody can. Not going to say anybody, but most people could go out and walk 26 miles if they had to. A lot of people who run could jog 26 miles if they had to, but it's going to be a lot more enjoyable if you can actually run the whole thing. So if you're not running 2 hours plus consistently, probably not ready for the marathon. All right, next questions here. Shout out to Kelvin and Robert. Charles asks, go-to songs for long runs. So I do not listen to music on my long runs. I don't listen to music on any runs unless I'm on the treadmill. What have I been listening to recently? DJ Lucas. I've been listening to a lot of DJ Lucas, his recent mixtape. I've been listening to 4-2 Doug, his recent mixtape. The J. Cole just came out. That's super good. I haven't even gotten through both of the discs, though. I started a little bit of on the plane. I've been watching The Sopranos. That's what I watched on the plane over here. I listened to a lot of Bill Simmons. I listened to Heed the Call. I don't listen to a lot of music on the treadmill or on when I'm running. Only really on the treadmill. And then before, I'll just listen to whatever. Before a run, I will listen to music, but just whatever I'm vibing with at the time. Today, before my long run, I listened to On the Under by Larry June. Moving on here. I got to keep talking even when the screen is dark because then Grant won't have to do as much editing. Dan Harris asks, 1 bite, what are the rules? I don't know them. Do you just take 1 bite of everything? And then he said, never mind. I finally Googled it. That's a pretty good list. Or that's a pretty good question. Super Bowl prediction by Chris Hooper. Rough. Super Bowl was rough. And then somebody else asked me, bucket list of marathons. So I was actually talking about this with somebody recently. London, for a long time, was at the top of my list. But then I came here, and I just vibe with France. So I'm trying to come back to France, man. I'm trying to do the Lille Marathon. I'm trying to do the Nice Marathon. I want to do the Paris Marathon. I just want to move to France. I really might try to get a job at Kipron after this, bro. Just 1 year vibing at the Kipron HQ in northern France, just bulling with the slugs and the mud up here. It's a vibe. But no, London, that's top of my list. I think the fast majors, because if I hop into any regional marathon near me, it's just really tough to have people around my pace. And I'm not saying I'm going to win everything, but say I have a bad day. Okay, I drop back to 235, 240. Then there's people, a few guys ahead of me who run 227 or 225, 232. There's just, it's very, once you get to the, not the fat part of the bell curve, once you get all the way to the skinny part, it's very scattershot. The odds of somebody running exactly a 229 or a 232 are really slim here when you're in this, in my area, at least when I hop into a marathon. So I would love to do the big majors where there's more of a pack. So London, Berlin, Tokyo. Yeah, those are, I don't know if Tokyo's flat, but I think that would just be sick to do Tokyo. And then, I don't know, maybe something in China. Would that be cool? The China Marathon. Shout out to China, man. Prediction for Super Bowl. Yeah, I already talked about that. Somebody said I should bring Nick Ward on the podcast. Yo, shout out to Nick Ward, man. Shout out to Nick Ward. I hope he gets back to running soon. Ren asks, who's someone that inspired me to go all in on building what I built so far and planning on building in the future? You guys see that Joe Burrow thing at the Pro Bowl? Can't remember if I told this story or not. This is the problem with filming the second part of this a week after I filmed the first, but I'll tell it again. I mean, Grant could just cut it out if I already said it earlier. But Joe Burrow was at the Super Bowl, and somebody asked him, "What's one quarterback you look up?" Or he was at the Pro Bowl, sorry, and a kid reporter asked him, "Who is one quarterback you look up to?" And Joe Burrow said, "Nobody. I'm in the NFL." So that's kind of how I feel, man. I don't look up to any of these boys. And no, I'm kidding. But from a business standpoint, I respect what, man, a lot of people have done. I respect in this space what Thomas has been able to do of Believe in the Run. He's established that business in a space where there's not a lot of super successful businesses. I mean, there's no such thing as a full-time running shoe reviewer. Thomas has established something pretty cool. Bill Simmons, to me, from a media standpoint, being able to first build up his personal brand and then just have this super durable, what do you even call it? Super durable personal channel, his podcast, just legendary. And also his ability to connect across generations, because I learned about Bill Simmons from my best friend from college, Dante. He was a huge Simmons guy. And then we were at dinner the other day with Steve Moore of Run More, and I asked him, because we were talking about something. Oh, the whole kids thing, because Bill Simmons has this theory about each kid made him 15% less productive. I say each kid has made me 10% more locked in because I find things that I can shed and make me more focused. For example, I quit drinking when Ira was born. I got super fit when Mason was born. I started doing a different video style when Roni was born. That's when I started being more run and gun. So we were talking about that, but I asked him, do you know who Bill Simmons is? And he said, Bill Simmons? Of course I know who Bill Simmons is. I love Bill Simmons. So shout out to Steve Moore, by the way. We were just connecting on a bunch of whole different levels, and we'll have to have him on the podcast or do something soon. But yeah, the fact that Bill Simmons, I know him, Steve Moore knows him, and he's just been around for so long grinding. He built up the Ringer. So he actually left ESPN, Bill Simmons, to start his own brand, because in ESPN, man, I could not imagine working at a place like that with just red tape, headaches, things left and right, barriers, just so much that you have to get through in the way of bureaucracy. And then he started his own thing, The Ringer, and then that was acquired by Spotify. That's super cool to me. And again, it's the media with the tech side as well. He doesn't have as much tech. And then I think the other person is Nick Bear. And I know Nick Bear people have all different sorts of things to say about Nick Bear, but what he does from a business standpoint, his training, and then integrating his life and his training with his videos is pretty cool. And it's a completely different style. I have a very unpolished style. I mean, I'm literally filming this on this tiny mic in my iPhone. He has super high production quality, but again, his progression over time, if you go back to his very early videos, which I did a few years ago, he's literally filming on his phone or whatever. It's just him showing the early days of his office and everything. So the consistency and the growth is really cool. And again, I know a lot of people have different things to say about Nick Bear, but what he's built from just a pure business standpoint, I respect a lot. And the fact that he's pushing it on his training as well, I respect. All right. Somebody asked me, Mint Hill, what made us land in Mint Hill? That's a good question. So we moved to Charlotte 2019. Yeah, 2019, a year before COVID. We just had Mason, and we were looking to just switch things up. I knew I wanted to get out of New York City because that's where all my college friends were. I just wanted to change a pace. I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to still be doing college things, going to parties with college friends. I didn't want the lifestyle that I was having at the time. And it was just pretty brutal living out in Bushwick and then commuting into Rockefeller Center. It's just not really what we wanted to do. And then raising a kid in New York wasn't what we wanted to do. So I got lucky because the company I was working for at the time was called Value Penguin. It was acquired, but that was my first job. It was acquired by Lending Tree, and Lending Tree is based in Charlotte. So I asked them, can I move to Charlotte? Can I work out of the Lending Tree office? And they said yes. They paid for relocation. I actually only ended up working there for a few more months. I bounced around a lot at the beginning of my career, just trying to grow, trying to find what was right. But I didn't stay there for too much longer, but it landed us in Charlotte. We lived in South Park, not South End. South End is another neighborhood. Yeah, we lived in an apartment in South Park for a while, super nice. Then we moved to Matthews, so a little bit farther out from the city. And then we moved to Mint Hill when we bought a house. We just liked the area. We liked the pace of it. I love North Carolina, man. It's a great place to live. Cost of living, the weather. And this winter is pretty brutal, but it's funny. This week, Charlie sent me a video, and it's 70 degrees or 60 degrees. The kids were playing outside in their bathing suits with the hose. They had the hose going. Meanwhile, a few days before I left, we were up to our knees in snow, 7 inches of snow. So typically it's more of the hose in 65 degrees, not freezing. So yeah, it's a great place to live. It's chill. It's not a big city, Charlotte, but if you like having the amenities of a city without some of the downsides, it's a good spot. I was talking about this earlier with somebody. I can drive from my house in Mint Hill to park at the airport in about 25 minutes. When Mason and I went to the Panthers and Rams playoff game a few weeks ago, it took us about 25 minutes to get to our parking spot and then walk to the stadium. Driving her to school takes about 25 minutes. So everything is about 25 minutes from us, great access. I absolutely love it. And the home prices aren't anything crazy. Now, what you're losing out on, I mean, the food, there's not a great restaurant scene in Charlotte. They try, but everything is a concept. I mean, that was huge when we moved down here. Concept, Korean barbecue with corn. Concept, beer. Concept, draft beer. Concept, craft beer. Yeah, there was a lot of breweries when we first moved down here and a lot of concepts, but I would say that's probably the downside, the food, and then not super walkable. You do need a car. It's almost like LA where you have neighborhoods to get around. So that's the downside, but the upside, weather's great, and then you have beach close by, not close, but 3 hours to some of the best beaches in the entire country. The beaches in South Carolina are incredible. The Charleston area, just top tier. And then you have 2 hours to the Asheville Brevard area or to Boone to some of the best hiking in the country and some of the best mountain vibes in the country. So there's a lot of great things about North Carolina. I absolutely love it. This trip, though, it has got me just, I don't know, it's got me itching. So I'm an American boy through and through. If that's my home, but this trip has got me thinking, what would it be like? What would it be like to live somewhere else for just a little bit? I don't know, but we bought our house in Mint Hill, so we're pretty locked in over there. Udoka, shout out to my guy Udoka, man. He's a legend. He's an OG. He ran was it a 50K in the Max Cushion Gang hoodie? He ran some sort of an ultra, and I believe it was the Max Cushion Gang hoodie because I think he left his other thing. So Supple certified Udoka Darwan. And our names have 3 of the same letters. They both start with a Y and end with an A, and both have 3 syllables. And then our last names both have a W and 2 A's. So a lot of similarities with Udoka. But he hit me with a pretty deep question, man. Genuinely, how are you feeling and are you happy? Let me say it like this, Udoka. I don't believe in happiness. I don't believe in happiness. No. Am I happy? That's a tough question. I do not feel fulfilled or satisfied right now. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but it's just where I am in life. I have young kids. I've got a lot of responsibilities. I've got a lot of obligations. And I'm working my behind off to make sure that I can not only meet those obligations, but hopefully do even better than that. And at some point have some sort of cushion and just be in a different spot. So no, I don't think I'm particularly fulfilled at the moment. I'm not using the word happy, but I don't think I'm particularly, I would say I'm not content. That's the word I was looking for. No, I'm not content with my current situation, but that's a good thing because it means we work. Now, I love working. So I'm happy when I'm doing this. I'm happy when I'm out running. I'm happy when I'm operating the way I want to operate, but there's certain things I'm doing that aren't ideal right now, and it's all working toward that ideal. And I'm happy that I can hang out with my family at home and have a good balanced lifestyle. And I'm happy that I can be out in France. But I think it's a balance, right? You can't get too happy and be too comfortable. But I'm also young. I'm supposed to be working right now, and there is some happiness and joy and just pushing and growing, but that's more the phase I'm in right now. It's one of the reasons I stopped drinking. The benefits of drinking are that it does give you a sense of happiness. It gives you relaxation and it takes the edge off. I don't want to feel content. I don't want to take the edge off. And I don't want to feel relaxed. I want to be getting after it right now. That's the program, right? So am I happy? I don't know. I'm happy to hug and kiss my wife. I'm happy to hug and kiss my kids, but I'm also happy to get after it and try to get to the next level. All right. Speaking of hugging and kissing wives, Brent Barstad asks, how did you propose to your wife? I proposed in Brooklyn, New York, a few months after Mason was born. Fun fact, people probably don't know that. I'm giving out too much free game. This definitely should have been members only. But with the length of this, it's probably going to be members only anyway. Nobody outside of Supple app members is listening to a 3-hour podcast about my life and my thoughts and feelings. But thank you, Brant, for asking that question. Thank you for caring. That makes me happy. I love you, Brant. I might propose to you, Brant Barstad. Yeah, Brooklyn, New York, a few months after Mason was born. I knew I wanted to marry Charlie 2 weeks into us dating, so it wasn't really a hard thing. I bought the ring Yeah, bought the ring, had it, just waited for the right vibe. And we were taking a walk in Brooklyn. We were down by the water. It's not a glorious South Carolina beach type of situation. It's not like Kiowa or Martha's Vineyard or the south of France out here. It's just by a shipping port type of situation, by an apartment building. But that was, I don't know, that was where we liked to go walk. And it was a place that was quiet in New York that we liked. And so got down on a knee and just bang, popped it. And of course she said yes. Don't propose if you don't know if the person's going to say yes. That would be pretty crazy. Could you imagine? I don't know why in movies people are always so nervous to propose. Does anybody have a story out there of getting rejected? Do you know anybody? That's a good question. If you know anybody, come back to the YouTube video who's been rejected. Come back to the YouTube video and let us know. Don't put them on blast, but I'm curious. Do people actually get rejected? I feel like now, especially the age I am, because I got married young, so many people are getting married right now and proposing. It's just everyone's just doing it, saying yes. So how would you not know? That's my question. And why would you propose if you didn't know? That seems like a you problem. If you're getting rejected, asking somebody to marry you, that's your fault. You should know that before you ask. Because almost at that point, it's like going through the motions. It's just so you have the memory of doing it. So yeah, if you get rejected, that's clown behavior, bro. And it's not I'm not flaming somebody from getting rejected proposing, but you probably should know that before you go out and buy the ring and get down on one knee. But maybe I'm coming off like a jerk now. I don't know. I'm just saying you should do your research. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Thank you for the question, Brant. Ruben San Juan asks, if you were offered a spot in this year's Leadville 100, how do you think you do? And would you run a sub 20 hour? I actually remember reading this last week and thinking about it. So first of all, I have no desire, no intention, no plans to ever run ultras. Now, let me say this, never say never, because I've said never a lot in the past and done things that I said I would never do, but it's not something that I'm super interested right now. But if it were the case that running an ultra were helpful for growing the brand in some way, or in the future that was what I was interested in, I would do it. But I just don't really like the idea of running through the night. I don't like the idea of running for more than 4 hours. It just stops being enjoyable for me. The reason I got into running was to improve my health and my wellness and my quality of life. And yeah, there's an element of marathon training in the marathon that is very enjoyable. It's not an enjoyable quality of life to be running 120 miles a week or 130 miles a week. 100, that is a sweet spot for me. That is what does improve my quality of life, because it's an hour to 90 minutes in the morning, 30 in the afternoon. That's beautiful. But when you start training a lot, when you're in the pain cave during a race, that is not an enjoyable quality of life. So ultras, especially with I don't know, just like there's lasting damage that can be done during an ultra, and it just messes you up. People hallucinating. I'm just not interested in that. So I'm never saying never, but I'm totally not interested in doing ultras at the moment. Also, my regular life can feel like an ultra marathon. So I don't need to introduce any extra stress on top of that. Now, again, maybe if I were doing Supwell full time, it would be a cool thing to focus on training for an ultra and really trying to compete. But with the current setup of my life, the idea, especially having young kids, no, the idea just sounds horrible. The marathon training is perfect because I can dedicate just the right amount of time to it to really compete and to become a strong runner. If I tried a different endurance discipline like the triathlon or ultra, I wouldn't be able to dedicate the hours. And people think I run a lot. 100 miles a week, it is a lot of miles, but it's not that much time. It's about 10 hours, which is very doable for somebody who works from home, who's dedicated. Anyway, how would I do at Leadville? So if I were really able to train, I'm sure I could complete it. 20 hours, I don't know what that converts to. I'm a 2:32 marathoner, so I'm guessing I could give it a good crack, but I don't know. I don't know. A lot of people tell me I would do well in an ultra. I mean, the one ultra I did, I kind of won, but I got DQ'd because I missed, what was it, point 0.3 or point 0.4 of the course. So I was very competitive in the one ultra I did. Now, it wasn't Leadville, so you didn't have the same caliber of runner there, I'm sure, but I'm guessing I could finish 20 hours. I don't know. I don't know. And even just this question, the idea of running 20 hours to me, that sounds so unpleasant. That sounds so massively unpleasant. All right, we're going to take a break here because I need to go upload the video. All right, quick break. Oof. All right. Yeah, the other thing. So, who asked that question earlier about things I need to do to be successful and grow the business? I need my own space in my house. This hotel room kind of is like an office right now because I have my computer, I have my podcast set up, and guess what? I don't have to worry about anybody coming in here. I don't have to worry about bothering anybody. I can film when I want, I can record when I want. I can't do that at home right now because I'm always bothering people and I can't do it late at night. So being able to have an office outside of my house will be huge to grow the media part of the business. So I actually have a meeting set up Monday when I get back for a contractor to come and look at the space. I'm thinking of converting our carport, the part that's attached to our house, into an office. And I think it's one of those things, like, for example, this iPhone, I held out so long not buying a new iPhone, and I can't, it's invaluable. You can't put a dollar price tag on how much this iPhone has improved the quality of my life. Just having this reliably, being able to do things like this on it, do the vlog on it, not had the battery not dying, not getting annoyed, has just been insane. So I'm going to upgrade some stuff and just the little things, investing in the tools of the trade like that, having a space, having the tech, that'll help us hit the next level. All right, next question. If I had to design a supple 5000 shoe by Frankensteining favorite parts of existing shoes, what would you choose for laces, upper material, midsole construction, outsole, etc.? 2 words. Dynafish Xiaonian. Next question. Thank you, Bingshen. What's my vision for the supple brand over the next 3 years? That's a good question. We answered that a little bit, but yeah, I really want to grow the media side. There's lots of upside potential here. Do more partnerships, do more internationally, and really establish us. I think the other part of this, I'll say, so really establish us on the media side and the tech side. The other part of it, I'll say, is being out here in Lille, France, on this trip, being around other people, some who know me, some who don't. But it's just wild to me how people still view me as, or not still, but how people view me as an influencer who kind of has an app or who's trying to get this thing off the ground. First and foremost, Supwell and what I was doing on the business side came before anything, right? So I was always the founder and the CEO before I ever made a YouTube video. So I think that's the part where we need to do a little bit of shifting on just the messaging and how I am perceived and the brand is perceived, because I'm not an influencer who has an app. It's a little bit tricky, but I think that's what Nick Bear has done really well, because people know he's the founder and the face of BPN, and they also know that he has a YouTuber. And not that it matters all so much, but it just goes to show how there's not the awareness yet about the entirety of what we're doing, because people know the content, they don't know the tech side and the platform side as much. But we're just going to be launching our new custom built app soon, so there's room to grow. So yeah, that's my vision. Establish the media, really improve our production, what we're doing on the media side. And that's not saying buying $5,000 cameras, but just the output, the consistency. And I think a lot of it is things like this. It's less about having a $5,000 camera, more about getting out here, doing more races, doing more events, connecting with the community, connecting with other people in the space, doing other things that can add value. So that's what it is when I mean elevating the media side, and then really establishing the tech side and the platform and growing that, and just getting that flywheel spinning, baby. Getting that flywheel of kilometerage and mileage spinning. There's one more thing I was going to say. We're just giving out the entire business plan. Here's the thing, though. People get so, what's the right word, territorial or protective of their business plan. I don't care if anybody knows. There's nothing I'm doing that's so special. I'm putting out podcasts and YouTube videos. We're launching a running shoe app. I mean, the running shoe app is cool, but if anybody else can build a better sup well than I can, they can go ahead and try, is my philosophy. So I'm answering because the community is asking. There's no confidential IP here. And this is the other thing. Everything I've built is off the grind. I know nobody is going to outwork me when it comes to what I'm trying to do. So I'll answer all the questions, man. Stop playing with me, man. Oscar Beloso. Love the videos and watch the videos daily. 3 hardest things about recording and tips I can give us to pick up the camera and record. All right. Number 1 hardest thing about recording. Trying to make things perfect. Man, perfection is the enemy of execution. Number 2, quitting. That's the hardest thing. I cannot tell you how many times I started business ideas or thought I would make a video or something and just quit. And I think I answered a version of this earlier. Number 3 hardest thing, and I was thinking about this on a run the other day because I didn't answer it in one of the earlier parts of this podcast. The 3rd hardest thing for me is still the negative comments. Dude, it's just so tough. And that's almost a privilege though, because I'm guessing Oscar is asking because he's trying to start a channel. So you don't get any comments when you're just starting the channel. So yeah, it's a privilege now to even have negative comments. It comes with the territory, but it's very difficult. It is very difficult to be dedicated to what we're doing and to have people poking holes in it. And it's a unique part of this job or this line of, I don't know if you call it a job or a work. It's a unique part of doing this because yes, we have a feedback culture, especially in America, man, with the performance reviews and the need to give feedback all the time. It makes me sick in corporate America, but there's this feedback culture. So yeah, we get feedback, but nothing like being on the internet and the comments that you get. So that's something that's really tough to deal with when you make it to a certain stage. But the first 2 things, trying to make things perfect and not quitting, those are things within your control. Put up a bad video. No, seriously, in the beginning, put up a bad video. I don't remember if I said this in the earlier part of the podcast, but it's important enough to say again. If you're trying to start a YouTube channel or start a podcast, put up a bad video, put up a bad podcast. And yes, don't just film it. Actually put it up, because you'll have to go through the process of editing it, making a thumbnail, doing the timestamps. Again, accelerating the learning curve. Even if you're terrible on camera or on the mic, maybe you'll find that you're good at editing. Maybe you'll find one part of it that clicks with you, and then the other things will come along. For example, with me, I'm not very good at the tech side, or I just don't care about it. But I was able to develop confidence on the mic and a personality, just show my true personality. So that connected with people, and it didn't quite matter so much that the audio quality was terrible and the videos aren't completely technically polished. So people can look past it to find the part that they do like. So maybe for you, maybe you're not going to be saying bada boom, bada bang, bada bop 5,000, or maybe you're not going to be putting out 2-hour just vibe session vlogs like I do, but maybe you do have super slick graphics packages and editing. You're doing cool slow-mo shots and you're nasty with the iPhone camera. So just putting stuff out there, even if it's bad, yes, especially if it's bad in the beginning, just getting the volume up will really accelerate that learning curve. And maybe one of those bad videos will pop off, and then you will get feedback and some information on what you should focus on. All right, next one, man. Really talking to these boys like I'm Steve Jobs. Aaron Horn, Hobbit feet. I haven't been reading the bios like I was earlier. Aaron Horn says he's Hobbit feet and slow. One brand to sponsor me, but that means I can only run in their gear. Who would it be? Full rotation of shoes plus all their running kit. Let's assume this somehow doesn't change my shoe reviews at all. Man, that's a good question. I think just because of the race shoe, I have to say Puma with the Fast R3. Also, I really like their daily trainer lineup. I could run in the Magnify, Velocity. Mag Max is not my favorite, but yeah, I would say probably Puma. Second brand? Kiprun, because I'm out here in France and I haven't tested their shoes enough to know. I'm trying to think. I guess Asics, but the last few times I ran the Sky Tokyo, I just I wasn't in love. Asics on the training side for sure is super strong, but yeah, I guess Puma and Asics are still my top brands. Mizuno is really good. I also think it would be cool to be sponsored by Mizuno because they're still on the come up and they're just not necessarily on the come up, but reestablishing themselves. They're a challenger, they're an outsider. So I like that, man. I wouldn't really want to be sponsored by, I guess Nike would be cool because it's Nike, but I wouldn't want to be sponsored by Adidas because, I mean, it's Adidas or Saucony because, I mean, Saucony is medium swag. Saucony is low swag, actually, after what they did to my man Steve Moore. Stock arrow down on Saucony. So yeah, I'll say Puma, Mizuno, Asics. Let's throw Kip Run in the convo too. We got to get some more miles. But I'm telling you, this Kip Run, Kip Ride Max, super good. I could run all my daily miles in that. And then maybe the Alpha Fly 4 will be good as well. So we could throw Nike in there. Also, as Nike, they're a Titan. All right, Jay Northy asked me, do I prefer a thumbs width in my toe box? No, absolutely not. And he also asked, does it depend on the type of shoe? No. So I'm more okay with having a wider and just more voluminous fit and a longer fit if it's a daily trainer. I hate that in a race shoe. But the reason I'm so emphatically saying no is because a lot of these Kip Run shoes, they're fitting half a size to a size too big. And I have gotten the right fit, but that really impacts the ride, especially in the race shoe. It's really weird to have this boat-like shoe on your foot. So yeah, no, I do not like my shoes to fit long. I like them to fit appropriately and maybe even snug, especially on a faster shoe. And then Reese J asks, two options: run on a treadmill for every workout for the rest of your life, or run in the On Cloud Boom brick, excluding races, so I can still race in what I want. I think he means the appropriate term would be cloud brick mid, on cloud brick mid. Yeah, I would definitely take the On Cloud Brick Mid or whatever other shoe you want to throw in there. Saucony Triumph 23. I do not want to run the treadmill every day of my life. I don't mind running on the treadmill. I'm actually not an anti-treadmill person, but if it's every single run, no, heck no. One of the great things about running is getting outside. If I had to do that 20-mile long run today inside on the treadmill while I'm here in Lille, France, that would have been horrible. It was awesome being able to see the city on foot like that. So no, definitely I'll take whatever mediocre to bad shoe versus a treadmill for every run. Nick Taylor, he's asking about the Supwell app. We already talked about that. And Supwell Community Challenge. We don't have anything planned at the moment, but I would love to do another one this summer. So stay tuned for that. Robert Johnson, he asks, my favorite hype track. So I actually made a list of this on my phone. Alrighty. Top 5 hype songs. Number 5, because I made a list on my phone. Number 5, Future, I Serve the Bass. Now, that is a very high play song in my rotation. I've listened to that song so much, so it's lost a little bit of its pop and its luster. And one of the things that makes a great hype song is just the adrenaline rush, which you can't quite manufacture. So when I've listened to a song too much or just too frequently, too recently, the velocity, right, it just loses it. I Serve the Bass, I've listened to hundreds of times, so that one has lost some of its pop. Number 4, Lick Back, ESTG, banger. Number 3, Digital Dash, Future, and Drake. Man, I love that. I love that. Just crazy beat, the way that the bass comes in, and then Future's flow, the way he's building and build. It feels like he's building energy, building anticipation, building hype for the entire first verse. And then you have that, it sounds like diamonds glistening, and then just the beat, the Metro Boomin beat is just crazy. It's so energetic. So yeah, Digital Dash. And I think because that album has so many bangers, Big Ring, I got a really big team, and then Jumpman. Jumpman and Big Rings were the 2 songs that really popped off. So because of that, that song just, it gets buried some, but that's maybe my favorite out of the whole album. All right, number 2, Ali Boumaye. Now, this one doesn't have the same, it's not a trap song. I don't even know how you describe this beat. It's a soul sample, but it's not boom bap. It's this era of luxurious Jake One and who's the other producer? Just his name just escaped me. The other producer who did a bunch of Rick Ross stuff, who did all the Maybach music. I forget, but this era of very luxurious, rich, textured rap beats, when Rick Ross was one of the driving forces of mainstream rap, that's the type of beat it is. There's so much of this chaotic vibe to it. And 2 Chainz comes in with the crazy verse, Game comes in with the crazy verse, and it has this positivity to it, even though it's menacing. It's a hopeful but violent at the same time. I absolutely love that song, Ali Boumaier. And then number 1, probably my most reliably hype song, I'm Not a Star. I got goosebumps just saying that. I'm Not a Star by Rick Ross. I'm not a star. Somebody lied. I'm out of Leo. I'm eating pie. Huh? Yeah, I'm Not a Star by Rick Ross. Just absolute banger. All right, we still got a bunch of questions left. I don't know if I should just leave it. I might leave it because it's 9:53 p.m. Maybe I'll see if I can knock through a few more of these, or maybe just one more. Let's see. Oh, man. Okay. I'll do 2 more, and then we're going to leave it, and then maybe I'll get to the rest of these at the end of the next pod, because I did want to get through. I might have to lock this post so nobody else can add questions on it, but I'm tired. Sorry. It keeps saying I'm moved to speaking mode when I get out. So I really hope that when I close this out, it has all the audio and everything, because that'd be pretty crazy. All right. Penultimate question here. Hanan is asking about the importance of cross training, and he cites Ben is running and Ben's journey with cross training. Now, this is a little bit of it's going to depend, but my take on cross training, and also what the general theory is that cross training is great as a substitute or supplement for running if you are injury prone. So the important thing to remember here is that there is no magic in running. There's no magic in running. So adding in biking is not going to dramatically improve your running. I really hope I didn't answer this question already. Yeah, if I did, Grant, just take it out. Yeah, adding biking to your running regimen isn't going to dramatically improve your fitness, but if you're injury prone, what adding in cross training like biking or swimming can do is give you some additional aerobic stimulus without adding the risk of getting hurt. So if you are not injury prone, the best thing you can do if you have an hour to run, and this is the thing, time is a finite resource, there's an opportunity cost. So if you have 2 hours to exercise every day, the best thing to do is to do a 2-hour run, theoretically, or a 90-minute run in the morning, 30-minute run in the afternoon, or maybe 90 minutes of running. And if strength training is important to you, do 30 minutes of strength training. But doing a cross training session instead of a running session, if you are not injury prone, is not the best way to get faster, especially if you're at the beginning. And it all comes down to running economy. It's the same reason why Lance Armstrong, even though he was one of the fastest cyclists in the world, only ran roughly, I know he was trying to go sub 3. I forget the exact time that he finished, but he could only run roughly a 3-hour marathon. Right? I can run a 2:32, but I'm nowhere near the level of athlete as Lance Armstrong because of the law of specificity and running economy. Running more trains the very specific muscles of running. It's like expecting to get better at 3-point shooting by playing lacrosse. No, it will teach you some important things like teamwork and ball spacing, and the cross training can do that as well. And of course, it's great for general fitness, but as we're thinking about specific fitness and getting better as runners, the best things that we can do, or the best thing that we can do, is run. And again, if you're injury prone or older or both, then cross training can be a useful tool to reduce the risk. It's lower volume. Most cross training that you're thinking about, like skiing or land skiing or cross country skiing, is actually really great aerobic stimulus, cycling or swimming. All right, Matt Beyer. Matt Beyer. Matt Beyer has a bunch of questions. Top 5 shoes not released this year yet that I'm most looking forward to. Okay, I didn't prep for this one, so I'm going to do this off the top of my head. Alpha Fly 4. Man, we really need to see that update. Just crazy how it's been out since 2023. What was the Super Blast 3? I'm hoping this is finally the generation where it's not the Super Brick 3. What else? Trying to think. Asics. Gel Slow Cush could be cool. I know they're coming out with more of a recovery shoe, but I haven't really been doing a lot of recovery things. New Balance. It's either going to be the SC Trainer V4 or the Fuel Cell Rebel Pro or something like that, or Rebel Trainer, something like that. Whatever next generation is of a New Balance plated trainer or a New Balance super trainer. I'm excited to see if they can land the plane and put something out there that's competitive, because SC Trainer V2 was great. V3 went in a direction I didn't like. And then last one, Cloud Monster Hyper and Cloud Monster Hyper Light Spray. Those should be pretty cool. And also the On race shoe, whatever they come out with. I've heard their next generation race shoe should be pretty cool. All right. Number 2 in Matt's question, top trend in the running shoe industry this year. So this is, I don't want to make this a non-answer, but optimization is the top trend. Cutting weight here, tightening up a foam there, dialing in a plate. We're in an optimization cycle versus an innovation cycle. We're not seeing any big step changes anymore. We're waiting for the next breakthrough in a compound that will really either shave weight or increase the energy return or do something where World Athletics has to change the rules again. No brand right now has an unfair advantage. There's no major innovation that's happened in the past 1 year that's putting someone so far ahead. Yeah, the Fast R3 kind of, but it's not the same thing as the original Vaporfly was in terms of all the other race shoes. So yeah, the top trend is just going to be making things a little bit lighter, tightening up, and optimizing. Number 3. Oof. What is one thing I would change about the running industry or running social media? That's a great question, man. That's a great question. One thing that I would change, they should pay me more. Nah, I don't know, man. There's room for everybody in the running industry, and there's room for everybody on social media. That's one thing that I've come to realize and appreciate more. There's a lane for everybody. There's a way for everybody to have a spot here. What's one thing I would change though? Man, that's a really good question. I don't even think about the running industry that much. I really try to operate in my own little bubble, which could be a good thing and a bad thing. And that's something I'm trying to change this year. So maybe I'll look at it in a different way. Maybe I'm not trying to change the running industry. I'm trying to change my approach to the running industry. I want to work with the running industry. Man, I really don't know. I don't think there's anything I would change. Was this a good question to end on? This is kind of an unsatisfying ending. I was supposed to have a great answer to the last question. And instead, Matt Beyer left me with an absolute stumper. Running social media. Okay. There is something I would change about running social media. I would change. No, I can't come up with an answer to that one either. All right. I'll have to think on that one. All right. We're going to end with a different question. My friend Martin asks about the Koros pods. He sees them on my foot in every video. How have they impacted my training? And this is a great question to answer on, or to end on. And I'll leave you with a satisfying answer. It is 10:02 p.m. France time right now, and I've just been grinding for a few days. So that's why I'm mixing up my words here. But I honestly love this. I love being able to do this. I love being able to share my love of running. I love that what I've built and what you all have appreciated about what I'm doing has landed me here in France. That's really cool. So Koros Pod, what it's done for my training, and the reason why I wanted to end here and why I put a smile on my face to see that question is because it was a change in the approach. And that's kind of the theme of this session that we've been doing, thinking a lot about things that need to change, what I need to change. Sometimes it's a mindset shift with the training. And for a long time, I was all about mileage, just at all costs, doing so much mileage, 120, 130, 140, which is great. But I also wanted to switch up the training and just add a different stimulus. So I went with the Koros pod. And at the same time, I reduced the volume and focused more on picking up the pace. And what the pod does is it gives you better data. So I'll be able to dial in the pace more, be more precise with my training. So instead of guessing how fast I was running, I was able to get actual data. And then when I was picking up the pace on interval sessions and with faster running, I could really see those pace changes immediately. And then the treadmill is the other huge thing. So anytime you're running on the treadmill, the pod, it gives you way cleaner data than the treadmill itself. But yeah, I was going through a pretty tough period with my running last year. I felt like I was getting stagnant. I don't know. I was also going through tough personal time with things, external factors, and that is part of being a hobby jogger right here. And of course, even pro athletes, they can have things come up in their life, but there's more that they can shift around to accommodate their job. And the job is the one thing that can't change. So there was a lot going on last year. And sometimes small changes can be impactful and meaningful. So doing the heart rate monitor, doing the Koros pod, those were two changes I made to dial it in. Just got more focused, got more locked in, and really put a laser target on my training and improving it. It was great. And I was able to win a marathon because of that and run my 232. And all those changes I made were after the 242. So sometimes we don't know what's going to put us on the right path. Like all the questions we had today about people wanting to start a YouTube channel. We don't know which video is going to take off. We don't know which failure will lead to the success. Just going out there and doing it, running that 242 when I wasn't feeling it, just deciding to do Bay State Marathon because I was going back and forth with my mom and Charlie on whether I should do it or not. And I just decided, man, don't quit mentality, didn't quit mentality, DQ mentality. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I don't feel 100% prepared. It might not go well. And maybe part of that was manifesting it. Sometimes before or after bad races, people will say, yeah, I didn't feel my best before the race. Well, chicken or the egg? Did you have a bad race because you didn't feel great? Regardless, I decided to just send and try to give it my best. And it didn't turn out well, but that just led to just a renewed vigor and focus on going after my goal again. And I didn't get my goal. And sometimes it's not a storybook ending, but it put me on the path to run that 232. And now I'm out in France stacking Ks. So we will leave it on that. Of course, the road to sub 230 still continues, but honestly, that's not even my focus right now. I'm focused on building the business while still being consistent, which is why I did that 20-mile long run out here today. But yeah, I appreciate you. I hope we have a clean audio file here. The Mileage Pod, episode single digit something. Are we on 5 now? 5 or 6? 5 or 6. I don't know. Mileage Pod, though, live from Lille. I appreciate you. We'll be back next week, baby.